Foundation, an independent, non-profit, non-religious, space-based organization founded by nuclear engineer Mehran Tavakoli Keshe, is introducing to humanity the science of the universe, plasma science. Keshe Foundation develops universal knowledge and space technologies that provide solutions to major global problems, revolutionizing agriculture, health, energy, transportation, materials, and more. The application of plasma science in the form of specially developed plasma reactors and other devices will give humanity the real freedom to travel in deep space. Plasma science exists throughout the whole universe. It is here and it belongs to you. Our knowledge, research, and development regarding the plasma structure has progressed to the point of enabling everyone to participate in the process. Become a creator and understand the work of the universe for the good of humankind on this planet as well as in space. The use of megravs, nanomaterials, GANs, liquid plasma, field plasma, and other plasma technologies have come as a new dawn for humanity to progress and work in harmony with the universe. Conventional technology applications are wasteful, damaging, and cause pollution to the planet and all living beings. Plasma science provides solutions and improves existing methods and use of resources in all aspects that touch the lives of all beings. Plasma is defined by the Foundation as an entire content of fields which accumulate and create matter and is not defined by its physical characteristics like ionization or temperature. Also, with plasma science, we understand how we can convert matter back to the fields. Quoting from Mr. Keshe, MEGRAV stands for magnetic gravitational, which means plasma absorbs or gives. And every plasma has the both. It has give and it has take. And when they can't find the balance, they distance themselves until they find the balance they can give to the others, that they can receive what they want to receive and give further. Certain atoms and molecules release and absorb magnetic or gravitational fields. Released fields are available to be absorbed by other objects. The Keshe Foundation has developed a way to gather these free-flowing fields from the environment within a resourceful and beneficial new state of transitional matter, which M.T. Keshe named GANs. The first step of the process of the formation of various basic types of GANs is nano-coating metals. This is carried out either chemically by etching, steam coating with sodium hydroxide, or thermally by heating, fire coating by gas burner. During either coating process, gaps between outermost layers of atoms are created. The residual coating is often referred to as nano-coating, defined by the structured layers of nanomaterial, which build up during the creation process of the coating. Nano-coated metal in interaction with other various metal plates in a saltwater solution creates megrav fields. These fields then attract available elements to form a specific GANs, which collects and settles at the bottom of the container. This GANs is formed from independent energized molecules like little suns that can be used in various applications.
The Keshe Foundation is extending an invitation to medical doctors of any practice and speciality to apply to the Foundation's private weekly medical teaching workshop. This includes medical doctors, dentists, and veterinarians. Scientists of the Keshe Foundation developed different types of plasma therapies and cures that utilize advanced, non-invasive plasma technology. The weekly private medical teaching workshop educates doctors to the plasma science behind the therapies, along with the functionality and operation of revolutionary plasma medical devices. The goal of the private teachings is to add plasma health knowledge to the profound knowledge of medical doctors. The weekly class is broadcast live over the internet through a secure private channel every Wednesday from 2 to 5 p.m. Central European Time. Presently, the class is only offered in English. However, you are free to bring a translator to the class. If you can't participate in the live broadcast, you can watch them later at your convenience through a private internet portal. Every patient's case that is discussed in the workshop will be kept anonymous and private. This includes cataloged findings and data gained from the analysis of the patient's health issues. Any medical doctor in the world who wants to participate can do so by sending an email to doctors@spaceshipinstitute.org. In your email, please state your willingness to participate in the medical teaching workshop. If you're planning on bringing a translator to the workshop, please state this in your email as well. After we receive your email, we will contact you with the instructions on how to apply to the workshop. As a part of the application process, applicants who apply, including any translators brought into the workshop, will be required to sign the Keshe Foundation's World Peace Treaty, which can be found at the following web address. All applicants will be required to provide proof of their education and ability to practice medicine, and will also be required to pass an extensive security background check before they are granted access to the teaching workshop. Healthful plasma technology is here, now, the use of which is increasing exponentially on a day-to-day basis on every continent. We encourage you to come and learn about this revolutionary technology. Apply today. The Keshe Foundation is extending an invitation to experienced farmers, agricultural specialists, and researchers to apply to the Foundation's private weekly agriculture teaching workshops. If you fall into one of these categories and are interested in plasma technology integration into agriculture, you're invited to apply. Scientists and agricultural practitioners of the Keshe Foundation continually develop and apply new methods of food and fiber production, soil fertility management, plant and livestock health management, and increased farm productivity using the most advanced plasma technology that is taught at the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. In the teaching workshop, you'll learn the science of plasma technology and its applications in the field of agriculture for enhanced and equitable global food production while minimizing costs and external inputs. Practicing farmers and Keshe Foundation scientists will demonstrate their application of plasma technology in agriculture and the ensuing results of such applications, thus deepening and enriching learning for all participants in the private teachings. Participants are encouraged to demonstrate their farming practices in the teaching workshop. The private teachings are broadcast in English live over the internet through a secure private channel every Wednesday at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central European Time. If necessary, you may bring a translator to the workshop. All applications are required to provide proof of their education and professional qualifications, must pass a security background check, and are required to sign the Keshe Foundation's World Peace Treaty, which can be found at the following web address. Translators that attend must also pass a security check and sign the World Peace Treaty. For details on how to join the private teachings in agriculture, send an email to agriculture@kfssi.org stating that you'd like to participate. Include in the email your education and agricultural experience and reasons for your interest in plasma technology. Applicants will be contacted with further instructions and details on the application process.
Welcome everyone to the 174th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for June 1st, 2017. And once again, we'll hear from Mr. Keshe with the latest news and teachings. And speaking of news and teachings of Mr. Keshe, I think we have him there in the background. I'm hearing an echo for some reason.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, hi, Mr. Keshe.
Yes.
Are you ready to take over there?
Yes, no problem. Let's see how we can contribute to the knowledge of man. Good morning to you, good day, as usual, whenever you listen to these teachings. As part of our work in Keshe Foundation, we have seen many developments, many changes. And in a strange way, we are seeing new developments and new ways. The beauty of what we see coming together, especially in past 2 or 3 weeks, is that the Keshe Foundation has broken through the barriers of the government. And in that way, we have broken through what we call the elite of society. In past 2 or 3 weeks and past 6 weeks, especially since Rome conference, we see a huge turnover with the people of wealth and power and governments have turned towards the Keshe Foundation to see what we can do, how we can change the society. In the coming time, very soon we'll announce further developments as a number of what we call wealthiest people on this planet have come together with Keshe Foundation for development of every aspect of the technology. The wealth at the disposal of the Keshe Foundation is the wealth of its knowledge seekers and the way you supported the development. Now we see those who have the financial wealth have come to be around the Keshe Foundation and supporting the foundation in a very heavy way. Today, as many of you are aware, we come to the point that Ghana, the Spaceship Center, has become the focus of a lot of movement. The publicity which has risen through the Ghana Atomic Commission's collaboration with Keshe Foundation has given us the opportunity outside Ghana for the people who were waiting for foundation to make the first move, that they could make their move, has come to fruition. I have to say, in so many ways, it's thanks to all of us, not the individual of us. The ones who back the teaching, the ones who teach, the ones who are supporting different structures of the Keshe Foundation in the background, those of you who produce materials at home and test it, and you just introduce another person, the neighbor, the mother, the father, or somebody else to the technology. It is a collective move, it's not an individual anymore. None of us can have a claim that this is what I did, this is what we done. I always remember the say of the ex-Shah of Iran. He always used to say, we have achieved. As a king, I cannot achieve on my own. It's the work of the nation and the king. In so many ways, it applies to us. We are collectively achieving it. The little inputs, the little testimonial, the little showing of producing different kind of gases, the little breakthroughs, collectively is adding to the knowledge of man. And the beauty of it is, as I said before, many times, the biggest problem we have in Keshe Foundation is the disease which, in a way, I have infected you with, and that is to share knowledge unconditionally as fast as you can. When we started sharing knowledge, and those who are devoted to serving humanity have learned, you're doing the same thing. Is the speed how fast we can share the knowledge the minute we found out that somebody might be able to have a use of it. And this is a beautiful disease. I hope the whole humanity gets it. It's infectious. Sharing knowledge and understanding, the more we give and share knowledge, the more we receive, and we get enlightened. And this is a beautiful virus of sharing and being correct. And it does not matter if you make mistakes, because at the end, it serves its purpose to be correct. In so many ways, we don't need to worry what's going to happen to it. We are sure that something good will come out of it. And this assurity has risen a lot of support for Soul of the Man. As many of you know, we do not go in one position and one condition of teaching. We try to cover in many aspects of the teaching that we share knowledge equally and in balance. I have received a lot of what you call questions. Can you teach now about the soul? Because man never understood. There is many questions to go into the structure of the soul. What happens to it, where it is, how it controls itself. It is part of us, and we'll try to break into it slowly, that many people in the future can understand. Maybe when we go to school from the first class, they teach us first about our soul and the rest will take second position. Because our soul will see the history, our soul will see the biology, our soul has a contact with the whole direction of the, what we call the structure of the creation. Maybe we have to go back to the original, the way we've gone to the plasma, and we have discovered the effect of the magnetic field. We have to realize that the soul of the man itself is created from the interaction of the fields. It's nothing else. There is nothing exclusive about it. The reality is, it's us who has denied our own existence, as I said many times. Maybe we have to start first in the school of life. When we go to the first class at the age of 5 or 6 or 7, they teach us about the soul, the operator behind our physicality. Then this way we can make decisions in a correct way from the onset. Maybe that way we can understand more, because at a younger age the fields of the soul are much stronger, very strong, and we don't need to speak. The people in the class will understand each other. There'll be no animosity. There'll be no problems as what we see, bullying and the rest, because they understand their soul structure. It is us who has created this for the humanity. 100 years ago, very few were getting taught. 50 years ago, many people became part of the structure of the teaching. But we thought how to write A, B, and C, and how to math 1 and 2 together to get 3 was very essential. And in process of time, we have seen education has become compulsory more or less in every nation on this planet. Maybe it's time for man to go back a year before you go to school to teach the man about the soul of the man. That when he comes to the class 1, in pre-schooling, understands the reality and totality. And children are very receptive because they can make that link. In the teaching to the motions last week, I explained to them the time you understand you have reached a point is when you discover about your own soul, position of your soul, and how you understand. But you got to realize most of the motions are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. They're already gone in a different way of physicality. To go back to the origin is a bit too hard. It's like literally like a salmon trying to fight to go uphill on the river to get to the source where he can actually find the essence where he was created itself. The life of man now to go back to the soul is the same as the salmon, as a fish. Trying to get back to the source where he started from, and then from then understanding the rest, because he already came from the rest through the mother. It's important for us to start teaching the essence of the creation, the soul, which itself is created out of interaction of the fields, but this time without dimension. This is the true existence of the creator. As he says, I made man in the image of myself. I came from fields and I radiate through it, and I can make a copy of myself again from the same field. That's all it is. We are made out of this rise. Even our souls is made out of the rays of the sun, where is the origin of us as a planet, as a solar system, where the sun itself has come from the radiation from the fields of the galaxy, and the galaxy from the universe, and the universe from universes, and then from the soul of the creator. Maybe this is what we have to teach. Then we don't need writing in English, in French, or any other language, because we understand the language of the soul, the line of communication of the soul of the man. And if you understand this, as we will teach many times, in the universe there are no typewriters, there are no laptops, and no papers. Nobody has seen trees growing in the fields of the universe that we can cut it to make paper out of it. We have to go back to learn about the essence of creation. Then we become more mature to understand the totality of the creation. This is one of the fundamental teachings of the foundation has been, and over past months I gradually built into the teachings. Because we need to understand why we are here, how we are created. We looked at the creation as an interaction of the egg and the sperm, and we called it the fetus and then the life. But we got to understand the interaction of the two at the beginning, as the onset, is actually the first part of creating and amalgamating the field force of the universe, that it creates the soul of the man. In the teachings of the past, many times, we have spoken about the astronauts, which they see lights in their eyes as a photon, where the radiation from the cosmos enters the body, the brain of the man, and in change of the energy becomes the light in the eye of the man. If we look a step further in the womb of the mother is the liquid of the life and the filter of the strength, where the right energy can enter and develop the soul of the man. So in process we understand a further step, that the womb of the mother is not just to create the physicality, it's the absorption of the essence of the energies of the universe that converts itself to the soul of the man. Do we need to go one step further in understanding of totality? That it means, do we need to understand what we looked at the womb of the mother as a source of the creation of the physicality? In the womb of the mother, in the liquid of the life, we become the source of the creation ourselves, of our own soul. Physicality is just a mirage hiding the truth about the creation of the soul in the essence of its created condition. Does this mean man has to go a step further and look deeper in his own creation? That the egg and the sperm are just the incubators of this creation of the soul of the man in the liquid life of the mother, in the womb of the mother. Then if we understand this, man has matured to the next steps of the reality of the creation in the world. Which means what we looked at, the life, is just an incubator, the first step for the creation of the soul, which becomes non-dimensional, and on its own becomes a strength in the dimension of the universe. As it has no physicality, it can travel the span of the universe, and it depends on the interaction of its strength fields to where it decides to manifest itself, in what shape and form. Maybe we got to add this to our knowledge, that man in truth, in his physicality, has been nothing but the incubator for the soul of itself, that creates the condition of non-dimensional. This has become part of our lives. Then now we need to educate ourselves. The way when you are born in a physical dimension, you are taught to speak, to walk, to learn, to write. Now we have to go beyond that, that we understand now that the soul is the essence of the whole birth of the man. Now we have to learn the language of the soul. How it interacts, what it needs to feed itself, how it writes in the soul of the man with the pen of the soul, not with the physicality of the pen of the man. This is where the teachings starts. This is what I said. We go into a new dimension, because if you would have talked about this 2 years ago, it was beyond understanding of the humanity. Now gradually we adopt and we develop and we explain the true essence of the creation. And then once you understand this, in the future we go to the next step of the development of the soul. What happens when the souls fall in love and they create their own creation? The purity out of the purity of totality without dimension. In so many ways, I have shown you this in a very physical way in past few weeks, and nobody understood. But in so many ways, it's the only way I can teach, that let you feel it, let you understand it. Then when we open the door, you've seen the light before. When you speak about the merge, or what you call the twin souls, or what you call that the souls to create a new creation of themselves, that the pure souls is created, is very much the way you made ganses. Body of a man is a gans. When you put two ganses together, you create a soul out of it. When you have the gans of CO2 in one side, in the salt water of the container, and on the other side you put the gans of zinc, and you create a new gans out of the gans interaction, is very much the same. The gans of the sperm and the egg leading to creation of the new dimension, which itself, in essence, due to the liquid condition of the womb of the mother, or in your box as salt water, you create a new dimension, the soul of the creation. Interaction and creation within the environment of the ganses. This is what I said in many teachings recently. Try to use the gans water as a medium and not the normal water, because the gans water, when you put in with the zinc gans and the CO2 gans, it totally evolves in the direction of the what condition, because now everything is created out of the conditions of interaction of the fields in a free dimension. That's what the plasma is a free dimension field. So those of you who have managed to create ganses out of the interaction of the ganses using the liquid water of the ganses, now you understand you're entering the creation of the soul of the system. Exactly. If you look at it, gans of copper, for example, is the sperm. The gans of the zinc is the egg. The interaction of the two in the womb of the mother, which is a cell, is in the gans condition, is the gans water which you use in your containers. And the creation of the gans out of ganses, which is the child, you create a new dimension with the amalgamation of the two. It is the work of the Foundation followers to develop these technologies, and then you come to understand how you create life. You create the soul without the physicality. Those who have been with me many years, like Armand and the others, they have seen the box of life I carry nearly 7-10 years with me now. I have created that condition out of the understanding years ago. But they look for physicality of existence. I look for the essence of the soul which has created. This is what we have to do. This is what we got to understand. And go back to the writings of Baha'u'llah, bless his name. He says, pray for your children 20 years before they are born. In a way, now that you understand the process, in setting up your systems, go back to the original teaching. I always said to those who've been working around the Keshe Foundation with the dynamic reactors, always pray for the soul of your system. Now you understand why. Because the dynamic system creates the three-dimensional fields, which their interaction leads to creation of the new dimension of the field, what we call a free plasma. And that plasma, if you look inside it, it's again hollow, which means has a soul. This is what I've been teaching, and the teaching goes on with emotions to understand how to connect with that soul, not the physicality of the existence of the plasma. This is where most of the misunderstanding has been, because the man has been so physical. You are looking for the rotation of the matter in your cores, but in fact you have to look for the center of what you have created in the center that you communicate and give and take from. When you add to the soul of the man, you communicate with the soul of the man. Giving to his physicality for it to convert into the part of the soul is very, very cumbersome. It takes a lot, because physicality is hunger to take most of it. But once you learn to work with the soul of the man, it's very easy. There is no time waste. There is no energy loss. The only person who fully understood this was Christ, blessed his name. And this is what is said, and I've mentioned it many times, that one day people understand. He gave life to the soul of the man, and he rose the dead. And he did the same thing with himself. He found the key. He found a way he could access the soul without actually touching the physicality. So he could raise anybody which was dead as a physical body on the ground. He elevated the soul. He gave from his soul to the soul. It does not matter if the soul has already left the body. He could see the dimension of it, and he could give enough to it that the soul returns back to the physicality, and the dead arises. This is the beauty of understanding. Once you know how to walk, you know how to run, you know how to jump, and the rest is just child's play. Very few people in the world of creation on this planet have ever understood this. The man who got very close to it, but still he could not completely understand it, was Buddha. Blessed his name. Buddha reached the very level of the soul. And that's why in the past teaching we said we finished with the religions, because they were all part of mess which man created for himself with the physical life. Buddha understood the soul and operated through that direction, which means he was one step ahead of those who call themselves leader of the faith. In his work, he strived to explain in a simple language of the destination of the soul of the man in the body of his followers, but they still could not see. This is why he touches the soul in his teachings, not the physicality of praying, bending and the rest of it. There is no banging of the head to the wall of Great Wall in Jerusalem. The banging should have come to put in the right way, that they could find their soul. You'll find out more and more now we teach in the dimension of the soul of the man. Those of you who've been the follower of Buddha, you find a lot of resonance in your teachings, because now you understand the totality, where Buddha could not complete. This is part of the essence of the creation, and not physicality of the man in a dimension which is chosen to work with. It is important for us to understand the next step in development of the technology with the Keshe Foundation. The development from now on will be to develop the soul of the man, not to make the reactors. Because if you know how to work within the soul, you know how to release energies that can make spaceship, that can make gold, that can make water, and can make the condition to feed the soul of the man. The biggest problem for the mankind to move into the dimension of the soul is how you feed the soul. I have to eat to be able to feed it. That's my soul through the energy I absorb from my family, my friends, or the food I eat elevates my soul to a higher level. But in fact, if you understood by what I thought just about a couple of weeks ago, or even last week, that how the operation of the lung and the heart creates a condition of pumping of the energy from the universal environment to feed the brain of the man, as itself feeds the soul of the man. So in fact, our body has created a pumping system to feed the soul, and with it to reduce its energy, that in return it can be used for the physicality of the man. So the most important part comes, how do I feed my soul? What is the essence of the life that it feeds my soul, that in reduction, in interaction with this environment, lead to the physicality of the man? In so many ways, this is where the gap in the knowledge of the man sits. How do you elevate your soul, or how do you feed your soul? How do we see ourselves in dimensions which we have not been very much familiar with? Now, this puts a lot of fear in a lot of people. Now I've been feeding the physicality. How can I use the physicality to feed the soul? If you've been waiting and looking for a way to elevate your soul, is very easy. You should have learned it last week. I gave you the key. The key was to create a balance between your heart and your breathing. That you create the right environment for the right fields in the pumping of the heart and the lung to be absorbed by the brain of the man, that it feeds the soul of the man. This is what we call a pure heart. This is what we call detachment from physicality. Because now it's you who creates the process of the feeding. Many of you who've been in the past teaching with us some 2 years ago, and those who were in the Sansana with us, they remember that an Indian guru who followed in so many ways in the background the teaching of Buddha, bless his name, came to us with his entourage. His elevation, understanding amongst his followers, they say it's about 100 million or so, was that he could starve himself for 21 days without eating any food. He asked for a private meeting without the presence of his entourage. We sat in front of each other upstairs in the teaching room of the Keshe Foundation in the Sansana. I said to him, "You're a cheat." As the head of the organization, he wasn't expecting to hear from me that I call him a cheat. He was taking a step back, and I said to him, "I know how you stop eating for 21 days, but you have to teach this to your followers too." I explained to him that he feeds himself through the operation of breathing air by changing different condition and position in his lung, and by a small movement he changes different energies which are absorbed, and he feeds himself through the universal tap, or what we call through the air, which is accessible to him, or he thought. Because he looked at it that he was breathing the air which was allowing him to create energy or stay alive. But in so many ways I explained to him that by breathing different way, you absorb different energy to your soul and to your brain, and that is where your food comes from. You feed your body through the energy of the soul in the dimension of physicality. He said to me, "Mr. Keshe, you have found my secret." I said, "There was no secret. Nobody could see where you're hiding the coin." The knowledge to us has been apparent for centuries, but now this way we teach it. 3 years ago I thought the same thing as I teach you today, but you as the knowledge seekers were not ready for it. But a master like him could hide it as a disguise, and they saw it as his mystic power. And this is what we're trying to stop for the man in the space, that we don't find many gurus hiding things and they become mystically what are called gurus. And this is the purpose of the teaching. What I thought to the master, you've seen his pictures coming to the Keshe Foundation in the laboratories and watching the maglev cores which Arman and the rest built. He found out he had to leave, and he did something very strange. When he came downstairs, before he says goodbye, he put his hand behind Caroline's back, trying to take energy. And in so many ways we felt it, and it was responded back. We took everything what he took before he leaves the premises. But this is how, this is why I teach this way. I could have taught you these years ago, but now that you understand more and more, you come to understand. If you couldn't understand how it's made that the energy comes to become the soul, then no one in a space can put a hand on your back and drain you from the energy, or you look at them as gurus and you keep on making profits in every corner of the world, and the universe will become what they call corner shops. There is a joke, but it has a lot of realities. In English, in England, if you lived or been there, they say, do you know why Pakistan never wins a World Cup and doesn't go much up in the football league in the World Cup? And the joke is that because every corner they see, they open a shop. If you've been to England, every corner shop is a Pakistani shop. They serve the humanity and the nation purely. But with it, They know the habit of the man, what they need, which area, and what it needs to be feed them. So if we allow you to go out without understanding how it needs to be fed, the man will make a church and a mosque across the whole universe, because anybody will come with a new magic, because you don't understand the operation of the soul and understanding of the physicality. Then the whole universe become a lot of mosques and churches in different names. But if you understand the operation of the soul, what you are shown, you can replicate, you understand, you have, and you carry the same knowledge as them. It's just for you to understand how the flour and the milk and the butter and the water in your hand, which is your emotion and the physicality and the rest, will make a cake, will make you a pancake, or it'll give you a bread, depends how you mix it. Then there is no mystery. It's just for the man to learn to what measure it needs what to give what he was expecting. And this is the purpose of the teaching. If you go back in my teachings, I always said, I take man to be equal to the universal community, that it does not become slave to the, or what I call subordinate to the rest of the universal council. The reason was, and you looked at it, that you'll be taught everything in physical life, a spaceship, energy and the rest. But my target was the teaching of the soul of the man. For you to know and understand the essence of your own creation, then you are ready to take into the spans of the universe. Because when a man relies on his own resources, he understands what he has, what he needs to give, what he can do with it. So if a lot of you join us to make a spaceship, the spaceship is within your soul. To my students in Accra who are sitting there and thinking the guy has disappeared for a week, in Austria doing this and that, or to Italy and to go to Turkey and other places, it was for you to start understanding the gap in the dimension, the separation between the physicality and the soul of the man. That you understand where the separation is. In my last session with you before I leave, I explained, I leave you with a man of physicality. You have 2 or 3 masters with you. Ahmed is with you, Alex is with you, and Benjamin is with you. These are the masters of the creation of the Keshe Foundation. These are the pure hearts within the structure of the foundation. And I left you with a dilemma. You have to choose. I taught you the essence of creation through the soul of the man, and you were looking for his physical position. You never understood you are the soul. You are the creator, and you are looking for the creator within you. Now you have to battle between the masters in the dimension of physicality, or to decide to understand the position and the strength of your own soul and move to the new dimension. This is why we teach this way, because if you are taught A, B, C, you never understand where B is and what is C for. It's got to be understood. The essence of the creation and elevation of the soul of the man has taken centuries, because man had to find out about his physicality, his limitation, his weaknesses and his strength. In so many ways, this goes back to the teaching we've done before. If you go from the bottom to the top, you know the whole structure, you've done it yourself, you're not afraid how to make from the top to bottom. We start with the teaching of the physicality, with teaching of what you call prophets, that you understand the correct conduct in physicality over centuries. Now you have been elevated to understand the operation of how the soul is created out of physicality. Your dimension and extension comes that now that you become the soul without dimension, how you manifest yourself in different dimensions in the universe back to the physicality. And the way you have come up the ladder, you know how to go down the ladder, and you know you can make the whole ladder because you've been through it. I've said that many times in the business life. We see a father setting up a business, even though the children are around him when he built the business. And then when he makes an empire out of the business and he gives it to the child who actually was from the beginning with him in the market stall and in the first shop and then in the first company and then in the first multi-companies and nationalism, then when it's given to the son, the company after a few years, or the third generation after a few years, they ruin the company, it goes bankrupt. Because the father understood how to set up everything. He went through the problems where the children only saw the wallet where the money came out of. They never had to solve the problem. But the father could find a solution in different troubled time, where the son never fought to find a solution, collapses. This has been the same process, how we see multinationals, family base, go in the hand of bigger organizations, because the business was made by the father who knew all the ways to the top. The children were what we call wallet suckers. They only saw what came out, and maybe if they moved the box from one to another was very much. So we done the same with the soul of the man and the physicality of the man. You had the physicality, now we teach you about the soul, that you have to go up the stairs and find it and understand its power, that you had a huge organization called the interaction of the soul of the man with the universal soul. You were looking to shake hands with the aliens and see how they look, where you never understood. Once you understand the work of your own soul, the man you see or entity you see in front of you in the space is the chameleon of the soul of the entity. Then you find out you don't need to rely on what he shows himself as, but you see the soul of it. In my teachings to Mojans, I explained very much recently, try to find a soul, and when you unite and you understand, when you come and you say, I had a dream last night, we were all in a party and I had a glass of wine. The other one says, yes, you had a red wine. And the other one says, you had a Coca-Cola. And the other one says, what? Because then they learn to meet at the level of the soul and they decide in physicality what they do. But in reality, there has been no physical interaction. It's the dream of the man. So we have been through the steps of making GANs from the matter. This is how we started. And this is all has been what are called trick in the magic box to teach you the final trick. And the final trick we have arrived to, which is showing and understanding that everything comes from the soul of the man. And now, how many of you dare to find the soul and then step down in it and see if you can make the physicality you want? It's very interesting. And this is the most interesting thing which has no one ever pondered and tried to understand. Christ came in Jerusalem, in Palestine. Black hair, brown eyes, dark brown eyes, dark eyes, black. Then, on the point of crucifixion, when he was put on the cross, where he changed the physicality to the soul, and then remanifested himself in a dimension of a new physicality, not to be connected to the past, but it took a new dimension of manifestation of presence. If you look at most of the European shapes of Christ, he became the blue eye, blonde hair, white skin. Did he go through the transformation of the physicality to the soul and manifestation of what he wanted to be seen in the physicality dimension of the eye of the man? Past few days is what we call the Whitsun in Christian calendar. Is this our teaching coincides with that day? Is this the time to coexist in both dimensions, even though you have already been shown by one man? Is this the essence of the teaching of today? He manifests himself to those of the European, blue eyes and blonde hair, and nobody has ever asked the question, how come in Jerusalem he was brown, dark eyes, dark hair, ton of dark skin, which has been the tradition in the, what do you call, Middle East, and manifests himself in south of France as blue eyes, and promotes that way, that does not conflict as the man with the black hair was already on the cross. Is this the secret of creation which has been shown 2000 years ago and man has not understood? And now with these teachings we come a step closer to understand how it was done. Was Christ in fact a magician who understood the magic of the operation of the soul? I say yes, but it was for men who misread his message and his work. This brings a lot of reality into understanding of the work of the humanity. This is what we said. If those who are the members of Universal Council and Earth Council stop working on the physical dimension and understand their job is on the level of their souls and trust in what they do is their wish, they become their command, collectively, as they met last night for the first time in a joint meeting, bringing unification between the soul of the planet and universal community, then they understand it's time to elevate the soul of the totality of human race. For those of you who are not aware, for the first time the executive and the directives of the, what I call the soul of the man as the earth, and the universal community and the universal council met yesterday. It was beautiful to listen to them, how cordially they interacted, how the universal council allowed the earth council members who were present to speak. And there was nothing about the voting and whatever. It was showing the humbleness where they came and how they want to serve. It's recorded and one day it'll be shared with humanity. But this is the essence of what we established. Bringing the two arms of the executive and legislation, which is actually through the soul of the man, accepting to work as one without any papers written, has brought the condition which we said. We have already started the process of unification of the soul of the man on this planet according to their language and the position they take in different conditions and environment of this planet. And yesterday was a fantastic day for humanity. In so many ways, I said, was the 31st of May. They closed the book of the past, and by today they start a new day. This is what has been beautiful with it. We listened to the voice, but the soul of Lisa in Australia when she was actually in the first what we call 1st of June date. And we listened to Dr. Rodriguez as another member of the Universal Council, or what I call the Earth Council in America, where he was still going through the 31st of June or May timing. We saw the future and we saw the past and we saw the end and saw the beginning at the same time. That day will be remembered by many in the future and understand, because of speaking and working as one, the soul and the elevation of the soul of humanity has changed as of yesterday or today to your time. We see a new breath of freshness in the soul of the man, humanity, and we will see new dimensions of the moon. It's taken thousands of years to do this, and it is there for man to understand. The members of the Earth Council have issued the first writing. It's for them to disclose at the time when they see appropriate. Today, next week, anytime. For the first time, we have established a line between the Keshe Foundation and the Universal Council and the Earth Council, that the physical dimensions of the need of the two shall be met. Nothing is coincidental. There is a reason for it, because through the teachings, many souls have been elevated. Many souls have found peace, and by finding peace, they have elevated their energy into a new dimension of serving humanity. And now we see the change. Today is the 1st of June, and the human race has taken a new dimension. As what was planned in physicality years and years ago by different prophets has given birth to the final stage of its totality. We spoke about the egg and the sperm and the environment of the womb of the mother. We had the prophets teaching the physicality, and out of the essence of the physicality we have seen the birth of the Universal Council and the Earth Council to work as a soul and not in the dimension of physicality. But they know through their souls they can reach the physical man to elevate his soul, and the process of what we call world peace has already started as of today. Don't forget, they've been working in the background as one, separate teams or groups or individuals, but now it works as one. The meeting of last night, if those of you who were present, was majestic. The humbleness, the fearness of being able to speak about your own language, where you came from, and be proud of it, that is taken with heart and with the soul of the members, to elevate it, to understand it, that in the language of the soul there is no division. One day, the Universal Council and the Earth Council will decide to release these recordings, and then you listen to it. Don't listen to the language, listen to the essence of what it was released collectively as one. It was very much what I said to myself listening to it. United Nations has made with the World Bank, and they've decided we give everybody the same amount of money, that they're all free. When I saw it, when I listened to it, the World Bank was the Universal Council, and the Earth Council was United Nations, accepting the gift and sharing it amongst the humanity in the soul level. One day the man understands the meeting of yesterday. It is important that we connect everything to each other and everything to every point, that we understand the totality and there is no misunderstanding. Today I've taught you a lot about the dimension of the soul of the man, but it will take man thousands of years to understand what was explained in past half an hour or an hour of teaching. There is so much hidden in it that in every word you can find millions of solutions, but it's for man to find out which solution is for him. As I said, we don't teach the human race, but as we teach at the level of the soul, the universe is listening and promoting itself, because in their level it still applies the same as what is here, but in different dimensions, as they did not know. I give my soul to humanity, but I know my soul comes from far long time ago, from far distances, and it comes from the essence of the creation of the universe. So it will not make any difference if you take a little or you take the whole lot to elevate your own soul. It's freely available and it's on the table. It's for the man to take to elevate his soul according to his own understanding. In so many ways, if we go back from the soul level and see what our soul sees, once it releases its energy, it comes in touch with the physicality of the brain of the man, which in a way created itself from it. Don't forget, in the essence of creation, there is always a gravitational and a magnetical. The energy absorbed from the universe by the physical dimension of the brain which comes through it, it transfers itself into the soul of the man in a magnetical way, as the gravitation of the soul absorbs what is given to it. But at the same time, it receives the spectrum of the total energy, because each part of the brain feeds the soul of different strengths according to its structure. And at the same time, it receives the soul so much from all dimensions at a level that is in balance with the physicality of the man, that then the soul of the man gives what is at the level of the physicality for the brain to filter out. In a way, if you look at it, brain works as a gravitational field, a pull from the universal, what I call pull of fields. It gives all to the soul, and the soul gives back to each point of the physicality in what he wants to be seen at, to feed the arm, the eye, leg, and the rest. So what do we see and how do we see? If you sit in the soul and look what the physicality of the brain, which is the first point of interaction between the soul and the physicality, then we can understand the structure of the brain, because it's the brain which manifests itself on the feedback of the soul in so many ways with the structure of the physicality of the brain. Then it can take us to the next step of teaching, which is, once the soul interacts with the physicality, what is missing in the soul that ends up with the shape and the conditions of Alzheimer's, MS, ALS, and the rest, depression, or expansion of the knowledge through the dimensions of the physicality. In the past 2 or 3 weeks, we explained the interaction of the physicality with the child when he's changing from the womb of the mother in the world of the water or liquid in a gans state to a thinner gans state, what we call the air. Do not forget, even the air of the planet itself still exists in the pool of the gans of the solar system. So even though we call it the matter state, in respect to the energies of the sun, still within the gans of the system. As we explained, in switching from one to another, we see problems in some children. We call it lack of oxygen, they call it, starvation of the oxygen, and we see disabilities in physicality. Now you got to understand, the same thing can happen in the conversion of the energy from the soul to the brain of the man. As we saw, disabilities created by the change of the environment. Now we understand, because of the feedback on the physical life of the man, the same thing can happen in the essence of the creation of the man by transfer of the energy from the soul to physicality, in what I call the transformer between the soul and the physicality, which is the brain of the man, where it transfers and transforms the energy from the soul to the level that the physicality can understand in a dimension of physical structure of this planet. In so many teachings I have explained this, that the brain of the man is nothing but a transformer. It transfers to the energy at different points, be it the arm or a section to do with the emotion of the pain or happiness. And all that energy comes through the soul of the man. At the same time, the same thing feeds the soul itself in a more mass mixture of the fields from different points of the brain into the center. If you understand this and understand the job of the transformer, as the soul, due to its strength, receives more energy from the universe that it does not even, as it goes through the brain of the man, but in fact reaches the soul at a strength much higher than the physicality of the brain, very much like the light we saw in the eye of the astronauts, as we explained before. Then these transfer of energies to be filtered. Sometimes part of transformer brings the emotion into operation in respect to physicality. In a way, it filters a little bit more, a little bit less. And then in the physical life, in the dimension of the emotion from physicality, which is every cell of the body of the man carries, with your arm, with your heart, with your lung, then the two have to interface and find out where what is not needed and what needs balancing. And in that process of the balancing, sometimes in interaction, in the physical dimension, we have seen it in the form of cancers. As we said, cancers are emotional. But in fact, the seed of the cancer in emotion has created from the interaction of the pure energy which comes from the soul, unconditional, untainted, with the emotion of the physical dimension of the cells of the body of the man, which interacts at the point of emotion. And we see different cancers accordingly. So, in the same position, we see the cancer in the dimension of the physicality of the brain of the man. And we have called these cancers different names as itself, due to change of its parameter. We see paralysis, we see lack of use, we see in so many ways not operational part of the physicality. We've done many research in diseases like MS and ILS and Alzheimer's. And if you look at it and you understood what we call the children with the brain damage through the lack of oxygen in the birth tunnel, was in reality a physical change which has affected the receipts or arriving of the information from the soul of the man to physical part. The same thing now we can understand can happen to the conditions which comes from the emotion of every cell of the body of the man in respect to the emotion of the brain, and the point of delivery to the physical part of the man. So if we understood by changing some parameters and some materials which affects the operation of the brain, that it leads to further development of the physicality, and we see the change in the children by taking some extra minerals in conjunction with creating condition of the gans in their body. We walk them out through the operation of the brain to see the physical change. Now, if you look back at the same way where the emotion of the cells of the physicality in interaction with the fields which are coming from the soul of the man at the point of interface of the transformer, where there is a physical dimensional problem in the emotion of the cell, we see these as MS, as ILS, as Alzheimer's. So, in fact, if you understood the operation of the physicality in the child, where with a folic acid, a vitamin B12, which is all radiation source, again this back to the essence of creation, and with minerals, which is to do with physicality of this life, if we understood that by changing the structure of the brain, we have changed the physical manifestation of the child, that he can walk and talk, then for the diseases like MS and ILS, we need to do the same. There is no difference in the dimension of creation. It's for man to understand the creation. So, for those of you who suffer, or you have connected to some people who suffer from diseases like MS, ILS, and Alzheimer's, it's the same process. It's the same condition. You don't need a wheelchair for the physicality. You need a wheelchair to transfer the energy to this right point of the cell, that by elevating and repairing the soul and the seed of the essence of the creation of the brain, you take the wheelchair out of the physicality of the man, and the man walks. I've done this many times and I've seen it, but I've seen people reverting back to it because the elevation of the soul was not there to allow, because the pain of the living was too much. Maybe this way, with the new methods, with using GANs and others, in conjunction with the physicality, not only we elevate the soul of the cells, but we elevate the soul of the man, that the transformer soul energy balance becomes higher, that we see by changing the structure of the soul and the physicality in the brain, the physicality movement of the man changes. So for those of you who suffer or know people who suffer from diseases like MS and ALS, the problem is not just like what happened with a child, that in physical condition, the switch came at the point of the birth from one environment to another. But this time, you have to cover and do the whole thing in the right way, but in a way in the same process, because it's the same brain. For those of you who suffer from ALS, or you suffer from MS, or you suffer from Alzheimer's, follow the same procedure with a big difference. The difference comes that you have to elevate your own soul. The difference comes that you have to elevate the emotional part so much higher that the filters of the transformer of the brain of the man open up to a new dimension from the receipts of the emotion of the soul. What this means is those of you who suffer from these kind of diseases, when you are given an MRI or whatever, and you look at it and you see the, what I call depletion in the physical structure of the brain, go back to the teaching of this morning, where you learned to go from physicality to the soul, become non-dimensional, and now you have to use your soul to feed the physicality for it to start allowing the arm which is paralyzed to MS, or the leg which puts you in a wheelchair because you cannot walk, now you do the reverse. So in reality, if you understood the teaching of today, is how, as we did with the children last week, to start creating according to the need of the man and balanced level of emotion, a new physical appearance, that you can walk again. The man in a wheelchair will develop the sense to be able to walk, to talk. And if those of you who've been working close with people with MS, you see two ways of, especially with ALS, behavior. Those, when you ask them and they talk, they cry. Those who, when you ask them, they laugh. And you understand the one who laughs, does, and do die faster with the disease. Those who cry when you ask them questions, they are those who stay in a wheelchair for a long time. So the emotion, the level of emotion in the brain of the man received from the soul has a direct effect in the speed of change in the cell and the physicality. In so many ways, it has to be said, if you suffer from MS and ALS and Alzheimer's, follow the same procedure as you did with a child with the lack of oxygen. How do you do it? And then wind and find how you change your own position. But in this process, you have to elevate the soul in a level of emotion much higher. So what you need to do is very simple. You need to take the same as the child, double amount of the potassium, double amount of the daily dosage recommended for calcium. The same with the zinc, and sometimes a little bit more, 3 times magnesium, because you have to support the physical part now to repair itself. And you do it at the point of both brain interconnection and physical part of the body of the man. That's why you need 3 times more magnesium, because magnesium is connected to the copper. So in that process, you need again to go back, because now you have become the creator. You need energy on the level of the amino acid of the division which comes in a way as B12, and the same as a child. You're producing new cells more rapid. You need the same double dosage or even 3 times more of folic acid. But the difference comes with this, that this time you take 3 times the level of the CO2 and 5 times the level of zinc oxide, plasma water, which is what we call liquid plasma. Because you have to change the connection, and you have to speed up the elevation of both the soul, the physical soul of the physical part, and the connection between the emotion part of the physicality and the soul of the man. So if you take in so many days, in so many ways, 3 times a day CO2, like 30 or a 50 because you're a young, what they call it, heavier mass at the old age, even to 100 mil CO2 in the morning, 100 CO2 lunchtime, 100 milliliter of CO2 at night, and then do the same. You need 200 mil of zinc oxide in the morning, 200 mil of zinc oxide lunchtime, and you need anything around about 300 to 500 milliliter of literally zinc oxide at night, because you're dealing with a higher mass. It's not a child anymore. So in a way, you need to consume something like 1.5 liter of the 2 ganses during the day, and you'll find out you walk away from all conditions gradually of what you call the disabilities of the brain, which might and has manifested itself in physicality dimension of the disabilities which are used to. What is recommended, which has been very easy to do, is to put the liquid gans of the plasma of zinc oxide and CO2 and wash your hair just before you go to sleep. Just wet the hair with it. You create a condition. Because now in the sleep time, when the physicality has not much function at the low level, it allows the soul of the man in the dimension of itself, without the need of the physicality, to operate much deeper and faster. So what you need to do, take the double zinc recommended by the scientists of zinc, potassium, calcium and magnesium. Even magnesium 3 times, it'll be okay for a short time, like 10 to 12 days, or maybe up to 30 days. Because the body will take what it needs, and when it's short, it reflects it, because your muscle tissues have to start understanding, connecting the soul part of the physical part to its physical part, which is a copper too. That's why you need more magnesium. You know, just connect the physical part of the brain with the emotion. You connect the emotion of the physicality with the physical part of the physical body, but the man too. So those of you who suffer from Alzheimer's, you don't need to take so much on the what you call the CO2 and zinc oxide as a GANs. You can reduce it to the double on board, but in so many ways understand that we measure, the base measure is literally 30 milliliters per part, or in a way morning, afternoon and dinner. You don't take any medicine, you just change the condition of your body. Those of you who suffer from, you've gone through the physical part of the change of the, like MS and ALS, it'll be good if you take equal measure of CO2 and zinc oxide and just wet your body 2 or 3 times a day at the point of disability, where it means the level of the emotion of the physical part of the body of the man is supported too. So as you understood, and we taught all the time, you have to understand with this technology we work with the fields. So when you put the mixture of zinc and CO2 on your skin, you just wet the skin, you create a condition that what you have put in, now they start communicating, and it fulfills all the needs of all the cells within the structure of the physicality. You have to understand what you're doing and not just blind follow it. The CO2 and zinc oxide, which you just with your hand equal measure, mix them together equal measure and rub it on the skin, it creates the, what we call, if you look at it, the radar. What you drank as a water, which is much stronger, that's why we do up to 5 times more, it comes from the inside. So in a way, what goes through this structure and what you put outside the structure, in trying to balance the field between them, feed the soul and the physicality of the cells of the part of the physical part of the body of the man, and you find out now you support both physical emotion, the brain, the structure, and what is absorbed in the brain of the man by wetting your hair and allowing the transfer of energy through. What is needed in one way is the same. The soul feeds more the CO2 zinc oxide on the cover of the body of the man on the head, and in that process repairs stronger going to the weaker, feeds the damaged cell part of the brain. And you'll find out people with this diseases, what you call this deformation of the energy in the transformer of the brain of the man, will walk in no time. As you build the brain cells, as they come into operation, you see the change in physicality. So in so many ways, we should see no one with MS or ILS, or even those with a brain damage. If you have been in a car accident with a brain damage, you can do it if you understand it correctly and restructure the brain of the man. This is what we are doing now with Naomi. And we see her walking out of where, when she actually had the accident after a month, it was so bad that the doctors put her in the section in a hospital in Italy where they just go to mortuary after. I explained this to Giovanni. I said, you have saved the life of your daughter by just following the instructions how to use the ganses. When they send people to that section, Giovanni said, now I understand why only 2 people ever came without the body bag from that section. I said, this is the section where they send the final stage for the delivery of the soul of the man, where the physicality is finished. It shook Giovanni that he understood how, with doing what he did, he has changed the direction of the physicality of the life of his daughter, and now she's back at home. She starts walking. She'll do more. She's at the moment reacting with her arms. We'll release, she'll join us very soon and she'll tell us what she's felt. This is all done with the full understanding of the structure of the physicality. We are building the brain cells slowly, slowly to the condition of maturity. This is exactly what happens to the womb, inside the womb of the mother with the brain of the child. But this time, we have taken over the condition as she cannot feed herself. It's the same with all of you, or those of you who suffer from these brain damages, even with a stroke. You can follow the same. And then you will see the physicality changes as now you build the essence, the soul of the physicality with the understanding of this position with the soul of the brain and with the soul of the man. And that is what is got to be understood. Those of you who suffer from MS and ILS, try it. It's just drinking a water. And when you walk out of it, remember one thing. Be given the physicality of freedom that you understand the position of the soul. We've seen many people who come to the point of death, especially reversed from cancer, they become philanthropists. They start giving because they've been there. They had to assess what they've done and what they achieved and what was missing in their process. And when they are given a second chance, they devote their life to serving humanity. The teaching now, as we see, merges the 2 sides. The soul, as we understand more about this operation, with the physicality part of the man, which brings now, you understood, as I said just before, from physicality to create a soul. Now you use the soul to repair the physicality. And once the man understands this, then man decides how he manifests himself in every dimension of the universe. Maybe the disease of the man in the past has been the reason for the man to find his soul to the teaching of the present, that he understands has no fear to go into space, that now he understands he can create any part of the brain he likes to manifest itself in different shape and form. Those of you who come out of this position, take MRI from your brain and let the doctors of the present time to be baffled by what has happened, but explain to them how and why and the reason for, and how you did it. And you'll find out the doctors of the pharmaceutical industry, they become the doctors of the soul of the man, as we've seen with Dr. Rodriguez and many others. Those of you who look in salvation in physicality will fail miserably, because you understand you have not reached to the master, and that is the problem. I give you this gift, Mr. Laurescence. You still suffer because you didn't follow my instruction correctly with your harm which I gave you back to you. Use the ganses which you never made, and then you will see your hand will not have the, what I call, disabilities. This is a gift from me to your soul, and I hope you accept it, because I know how much you love to write rubbish. I give you the power to write more. Those of you who understand this process will find a lot of pleasure, because you will change your life, because you change the life of the others, and then by teaching it, you are the example. As I said, blessed name Christ understood the change in physicality and the soul, and he used it. Now those of you who walk off the wheelchair, you'll come and understand one thing, that the understanding of the man today has reached the prophet of the past, as is in the writing of Baha'u'llah, bless his name. Now you understand the teaching. We came to teach the reversal, that you can manifest yourself anywhere in the universe according to your wish. Where the teaching of the past was how to find your soul that you can elevate it. Now we understand both ways. One took thousands of years, and one took a few years. So for those of you who suffer, or have friends or family who does, just get yourself in the, what I call, the hardware part of the supermarket. Walk into the section where they do with cleaning, and you buy yourself a caustic to open the toilets. This way, at least you clean the toilets of the life of the soul of the man, that it comes with a clean physicality. Mix the caustic with the copper and zinc, the way it's been taught. Make yourself ganses, and then you find the liquid of life within it. And then you enhance and elevate the soul of the man through the consumption of the ganses, which is in level and the balance with the soul. And then you find out, now you have learned how to change the physicality into the soul, and from the soul back into physicality, and see every disability is to walk away. In the future teachings, I'll teach you how to make limbs and arms and heart cells that you don't need the operation. In the medical teaching we have already taught, but many people dare to do it because they have not gained that much trust in themselves. If you understand, those of you with the amputation will have the full arm or leg back. Those of you who have a heart condition, that they need to give you a new heart, you'll be taught how to produce heart cells and tissues without the operation, that you walk out and doctors don't see. I've done this many times and it works so perfectly. But it's you who have to decide in which dimension you want to exist. We take the knowledge to the soul, that the physicality will learn from it. In a way we say, we talk to the door that the wall can hear. Any questions? And Azar is going to be first.
I'm going to be first. There's Andrew that asked in the Q&A, asking if Mr. Keshe can share his plasmatic perspective on cleansing reactions that may occur as GANS water or plasma devices purifies and detoxify the body toxins that are causing disease in the body. So some people may have a reaction to these toxins coming out, and is there a plasmatic perspective on that?
Explain.
Well, I think
Is he
maybe,
there? Promote him. Let him see what he says.
let's see. I'll try to promote and see if they can speak. Okay, I'll unmute you. Anuj, can you speak there? Oops, they muted back again, so maybe not. If you want to type in the chat, then okay, he's typing in the chat. Can you clarify anything about that, or maybe I can, in terms of well, people that try some of these, the GANS water or maybe a plasma device, find they usually have a positive response and feel good and so on. But some people maybe they push it too hard, and or maybe it's just part of their detoxification that they when the toxins come out, it causes dis-ease, not disease, but uneasiness, let's say, in the body. You might not feel good while these toxins are coming out. You feel better after they come out.
Okay, let's talk a different way. Maybe the toxin, you call it, sits in the interaction of the fields of the soul and the physicality, where you still need to be ill, feel ill in the physical dimension, that you receive what you need from the environment of the others to feed your soul. This is what you've done all the time, knowingly or unknowingly. So the conflict, or what you call detoxification of the energy or the soul, comes from the truth, in fact, that now you have to supply yourself with what you've been taking from the others by what I call attention seeking through being sick, or attention or getting from the soul of the people and their emotion. In so many ways, it's a detoxification of the man's himself emotion which creates this, which means he does not want to let go because he doesn't know what he's going to get, what he was getting free from the others by attention. When you walk on the street and you're limping, or when you walk on the street and you are on a wheelchair, even people passing you subconsciously say, oh my God, he's on the wheelchair. You become a beggar, you become a king on the chair of the wheelchair. Because when you get my attention, it means you've taken something from me. But now you have to start living with not being able to take, because now you can affect your own physical dimension without taking. And this takes a lot, and this is what is the job of the soul. I've seen this many times. And as you go through the process of detoxification, or what we call the taking of the gans of CO2 that you elevate and feed whatever is short everywhere, a lot of people come to the point they put this down, the material. They don't want to use it. Because with it, we're using it, they have to stop what I call soul sucking from the others. And this is not what they want, because then they have no dimension. Then they have no existence, because they took it consciously or unconsciously. We had a case, many of you seen the video on the internet years ago. The gentleman was brought to us with a Parkinson and dementia. The daughter, being a woman of medicine, I think she must be listening. She listens to all the teachings most of the time. I created those days what it was with the cups and the surrounding and everything. And We went walking with this guy for the first time on the street outside the house of the girl, or the woman I should say. And as we were walking, is recorded, you hear the daughter says, it's the first time he's walking in 15 years. He hasn't walked. And he started talking and doing things. This all came because in the process of creating all the materials which now you use, as explained earlier on, for development of the brain or replacement of the cells which have been destroyed. And few weeks before that, he was still in a wheelchair. Even a couple of weeks before that, he was in a wheelchair. He would not walk and he was paralyzed. The wife has to push him, and the daughter put him in the car, and the rest of it. One day, the wife leaving him on a chair, as where he's been sitting for past 15 years or whatever, she says she's going to go to the neighbors, but she goes usually through the front door to the front door of the neighbor, but this time she decides, for whatever reason, to go through the back door. And as she's passing the back window, he sees the gentleman getting up and helping himself with what he wanted in the room. And she knocks on the window and says, what are you doing? I leave you in the room as a paralyzed, and when I leave the room, I'm not there, you walk. And she calls the daughter, and the daughter called me and says, do you know what has happened? I said, of course, he's become a sucker. He just wants to take attention. And that was it. From that point on, we refused accepting the guy that he cannot walk. And we saw this a couple of times with him. And then, as now he learned that he can feed himself, we saw him riding a bicycle in Holland, 2 or 3 kilometers at a time. What I explained to the daughter and to the wife was the same. He was used to abuse of the soul, and now he's learned to do it himself. This is the beauty with the technology. When you give a gift of life, let them appreciate it that they done it themselves, not you, because otherwise you become another prophet. These people who we see with these kind of behaviors are called detoxification of the soul of the man. They don't feel good, because not feeling good means now I know to do it myself. I don't need to become a soul sucker. And this is the habit of the man. We need to extend everything that always in the back of our mind is the elevation of the soul in the dimension of both physicality and the brain, or what we call the emotion, and then the soul of the man. Maybe now you understand where your toxicity comes from. Is you who would like to carry on with the habits of the past. And somewhere in between, the emotion needs filtering. In so many ways, you do the work of the, what I call kidney, cleaning up the physicality, what is not needed. You have to do the cleaning up in the soul of the man, in the transformer of the brain of the man. And that's very hard, because by habit as men, we are used to abuse, because we want to take. And when we are given freely, we have to object to it, because, as we say, it's a what we call the Persian girls on the table of dinner table. They push you away with a hand, I don't want you. With the legs, they pull you forward, darling. So this is how the man plays with his own physicality and his soul.
Mr. Keshe, Dimitri asks, how can we deal with bipolar?
Doesn't exist.
And is it only zinc? It doesn't exist.
Does not exist. Bipolar, in so many ways, it breaks into 2 ways. Emotional split, which means we cannot handle, we prefer to compartmentalize each section, or is the other side, the way we see it, as what we call the beautiful people. that hidden themselves in the long term and appear in an older age, in a further distance in the age gap. And then you call it the schizophrenic. Bipolarness is the physical dimension of the man at a certain point who likes to split, that he can handle. I can do, if you look at it this way, women are multitasking and men are single task, most of us. And for us to be able to handle everything, we have to create his own compartment. And then when we do it, they say the guy is bipolar or whatever. It's just that we do not create the right balance of energy in the soul level, and then in physical level, we have to split it. So something like 80% zinc oxide, 20% CO2, for a long term, day, morning and night, for 3 to 6 months should show where you elevate the emotion, that in a way you become multitasking in the level of the soul. But if some of the, I've seen a lot of what they call bipolar are actually what you call beautiful people, but they have managed to hide themselves. I've seen it even in the age of 50, 60 coming up. Many people who are multitasking, especially women, we see the level of what you call a schizophrenic, or what we call the level of different souls, in the age around about 40, 50. Because it becomes too cumbersome to handle the three, so they start showing themselves. And then you see the interest of each, the operation of each. And we see this mainly in women. Because women are multitasking, they can hide what you call schizophrenic very well, because they can handle it when they become aware of it. And sometimes they can do it till the point that it's becoming too much, you know, the children, the grandchildren and the rest of it. And each one was responsible for one thing. And then it says, oh, she's becoming forgetful, but she's doing the other. But in fact, now each one is trying to cover its own, what do you call it, dimension. You see this a lot. And then if you look at it, it shows in different dimension of physicality.
Mr. Keshe, there is a continuation of the previous question, and they're asking about toxicity caused by vaccinations specifically, and how that can be dealt with.
In rame mi serve per fare un esperimento.
Oh, we have Giovanni. Hello, Giovanni. Buongiorno.
Aspetta.
You got to switch off your microphone, Giovanni.
Hi, Keshe. Good morning.
Good morning.
I
Where
need
is my coffee?
It's raining.
Oh, Topoli has heard you. He knows you are there. Yes, Giovanni. Know him. How are you?
How are you, Keshe?
Caroline, can you come up, please?
Hi.
Hi. Topoli has got excited hearing your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to you.
What is the question? Can I answer this question, Giovanni, which Rick has asked? Or do you want to ask a question? Hello?
You muted.
Apparently he muted, or someone. Oh, he's open again. Hi, Giovanni.
Hi, Keshe.
Hi, Giovanni.
Yes.
How is our little girl doing?
It's very good, Keshe, because I show for the first time the first magnetic resonance and the last one to the physiotherapist, and they say that was impossible what's happened to my daughter, they change all the exercise, because the brain, it's completely changed. And so what they have started to do with their program was obsolete. And so they now start to see your teaching, Keshe, the night, because it's not possible. What I've done until now, it's wrong. So they are start to study listen this technology. I'm very happy with this.
Is that the same physiotherapy for the Olympic team?
No, this is a new one.
Okay.
It's new one because Naomi now sure can do more, but the problem is that for all this month was live in department that was only for dead people, and so they don't want that time, don't want to lose time with a person that they know sure died. And for this they create a lot of problem of articulation, joke, foot, and so on. And now I work for set up again all the structure. But sure,
What is the difference? What is the change now?
Keshe, big change because they start to open the joke. If I ask,
you mean the jaw, the mouth?
The jaw, the mouth, yeah. She can stand up alone, and only I keep her in balance, but she can stand up on his feet, on his foot, and so and now every day is improving.
Can she walk on her own yet?
No, not yet, because the problem is not a brain problem. It's a problem of the foot, that there is was not make too much physiotherapy that time, so there is a block to the articulation of the foot.
So we can see her walking properly soon.
Yes, yes, I think 1 month or 2, no more.
I hear she understands when you talk to her now.
Yeah, sure, she understands all the answer, but with the movement answer. When for no,
I hear she can show her thumb when she's happy now.
Yeah, sometimes smile. It's evident that they smile.
It's beautiful. It's nice to see you happy again.
Yes, sure, Keshe. I say thank you again to you, because all of the instruction that you give to me was really very important for change all this situation, because I have feel on my skin the change that was possible to do with this technology. It's really was it's born a new brain, literally a new brain.
You can see an MRI.
Yeah. With the magnetic resonance show that there is only some scarf, little scarf, no big scarf, and the activity of the brain, it's of the brain is of a it's a normal, completely normal, like a person that is in good health.
So you just gotta fix the physical part blockages, and then that'll be it.
Yeah, yes. The situation is this.
Giovanni, next month it's exactly 1 year.
Yeah.
Can you get her to talk by the next month?
Oh, I hope, Keshe.
Did you make the headphone?
Yes, I hope that between 1 month she talk. But
yeah, but did you make the headphone which I told you to make?
Ah, no, Sir Keshe, Sir Keshe,
Oh, Mr. Giovanni.
oh, Sir Keshe, but I, start to set up all the guns for all, and for my daughter too.
Yeah,
It's not.
I hope so. You're
I
the
don't.
pot maker who drinks out of
I give
broken
all.
glass pot.
Yes, I have all the material,
Ah,
but I start to set up in these days. I start to produce
well,
guns.
in the factory.
Both, every house, factory, everywhere. Maybe in
Ah.
the garden too. Okay.
That's good news. For those of you who don't know, Giovanni runs and heads the Keshe Foundation in Italy and the factory, which has moved down to the south because of him. And he's got a lot on his hand. Thank you very much for everything, Giovanni.
No, thank you to you, Keshe. I don't have a word for say thank you to you and Caroline. Believe me. Thank you.
We'll see. Let us see if we can get her talking by next month.
Ah, yes, I hope. I hope
I hope
really.
so. At least we're in the right track. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Giovanni.
much.
Thank you indeed.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Rick, would you like to go back to the question?
Okay, the question was, what about the toxicity caused by vaccinations? What can be done about that?
The toxicity, now we have, I've explained this before, comes mainly through mercury in the brain. The addition of the mercury in the brain has caused a problem. This needs a knowledgeable doctor to be able to do it, to reverse it. It is by extraction of the mercury from the brain cells. Mercury is very dangerous to work with or be near of or near to. It needs the development. Somebody's microphone is open. It needs the development in a way to what, like Dr. Rodriguez and our doctors in South America did. In a way, because the mercury is in such a minute amount, but very effective in the brain, is to extract it from the brain cells. Dr. Rodriguez and other doctors know how to do it, but you have to understand that you don't introduce a new material into it. But at the same time, it does not matter how much energy or brain cells you produce due to the level of mercury in the brain, removal of mercury is paramount. Because with these injections, we actually inject directly mercury into the blood cell, and we touch the emotion of the physicality and the brain. There is a procedure. It takes very little time, but it needs an expert hand. And I see this with the Dr. Rodriguez in Washington to be able to do it, and the doctors in South America who understood how to remove iron from the tissue and how to remove what you call calcium from the breast. It's not the same order, but it has to be understood fully. You don't need to touch the mercury, but you can work with the materials near to it, the same process, that in the spectrum, part of it will touch the mercury and you deplete it. Then you see the change. But at the same time, you have to go through the same process of developing the new brain cells which have been damaged. As I said before, keep away from and try to do the single injection. We see new forces coming into, especially in Northern Europe, that they are even trying to take the parents to prison if they don't go with the 3 injections. But what'll be interesting, as I said, ask the ministers, the grandchildren and their family to be injected all, and tell them we watch for 3 years. If nothing happened to them, then my child. The ministers themselves are avoiding their own children to be injected, then people at the highest level. Why should it be for the others? This is a complication we have to handle. And at the same time, there is a way I see it can be done, is that we take the injections from the doctors who are giving. Do not touch it, do not open it, put it through a gas water which allows the mercury to be extracted from it and then give it to the child. I think there is a process that can be done where we have no objection, but as I said, I keep on suggesting different ways to do it because it depends how it suits the parents. The injection, the MMR, let them seal it, let them sign the cap that you don't touch it, take it home, put it through a process of extraction of the mercury from it, and then give it back to the doctor to give the injection. The problem is not the injection, it's the level of mercury in it. The combination of the materials. You can do it, it can be done. And I don't see how and why it's getting pushed so heavily, except that the pharmaceuticals have got to return the money they invested to inject out to kill. As I said a few weeks ago, we received a message, the world population cannot be more than 500, we have to control it. 500 million is the maximum. I said, okay, if you want to control it, let it be your life. You put your life first, get rid of your life first, then the other 1 billion will be perfectly all right because you're not there to control the 500. He says, no, we have to be here to control. So it means, why don't you kill yourself first, then do with others? Anybody who says they are from the organizations who want to control population say, okay, everything has to be by example. You kill your own children, your own family, your own daughter, and then yourself, and then we follow you. This is why it should be handled. This is what I said to Illuminatis very recently. If you are so much that you want to control 500 and you have to get rid of the rest, put your own daughters, your family, your children, your grandchildren, and your immediate family and friends as part of the 500, and then we'll talk about the other 7.6.5 billion you want to get rid of. He says, no, but we are the controllers. I said, no, you're freaks. You're a bunch of criminals sitting in the organization of the government. So anybody, you see the same position is, as I said, in the Iranian government now. The president of the Iranian government re-elected works on a very, very clear understanding mandate, where they say what we call the power of military says, those who served and gave their families for going to the war and fighting against Iraq have a say. Those who haven't, they haven't defended the country, so they have no say. So anybody who says to you that the population has to be 500 million because there's not enough food, you say, okay, we'll start with your family. Can you bring them all in and we give you whatever, whichever shape or form you want to get rid of humanity, do it with yourself, with your family, and then we follow. When you're done, your brothers, your sisters, your uncle, your children, your grandchildren, and the rest, then we stand next to them, the next one. And let them see if they can stand the loss of their own blood. And then we found the answer. Till it doesn't hit home, they don't understand. If you are there to control the population, 500 million, you want to get rid of 6.5, which is 1 out of every, what do you call it? You live divided by, let's say, 12. Well, first of all, put to your 12 of your dearest in the front line, you'll be number 12. I become number 12. If you can kill your own sister, your own daughter, your own mother, your own blood, by execution, by injection, whatever method you're choosing for the rest of humanity, I'm prepared to be, but you bury them. Every single one you kill, you bury, and then we go to the next one. And then we see if you follow this procedure of has to be controlled. We hear this a lot coming from Bill Gates sized people, that they have to control. Please put your own family on the first 12 line. For every 12 you kill, we give 1 person from the other member of family, and see how it works. This is a very fundamental point, and it's just the excess of power. If it's good to kill 6.5 billion, it has to be part of it yours too. And then if you can bury them, by the way, you choose the method. We give it total freedom, hanging, shooting, whatever to do, which you decide to do with the rest of humanity, do with your family first. Then I'll be number 12. I stand myself at number 12. See if you can bury them. The mental disorder and the grief in you will not talk. You know exactly what I mean. As I said before in the interviews, the Senate opposed the Iranian peace talk 5+1, that they're going to veto it. I said to them in a meeting, in a presentation with Mike Harris, you show me a single member of Senate who can oppose 10 million, 5 million jobs in such a depression in the United States. The following Monday, head of the opposition group in Senate resigned and it's finished. We got the signature. Now we do the same. Anyone who tells you we have to control the humanity to 500 million, say please, that is reducing 12 people in every group. So the first 12 is your family, and we leave it to do it because we don't want to get our hand dirty with any of it. You line up your family, your children, your wife, or your mother, and then when you've done the 11 execution, I'll become number 2, but you have to bury one at a time. You'll find out it's buried. Talk is cheap because it pays for the pharmaceuticals to do what they wanted. Mercury, we go back to our medical teachers, we have to go back to doctors. We can show it in the Keshe Foundation research group in water decontamination. As you know, we have developed a technology which is now proven scientifically, data coming from the government laboratories, that as you know, there's a big problem with the farmers with the nitrogen which they release, and nitrogen contamination is very big. We have shown that we can reduce in the first step but between 59 and 63% within a few minutes with the new development we have done. And we're going to the second phase of it to increase it to about 95%. So a lot of money which was getting spent in for the farmers for nitrogen contamination, the rest of it, now we have found a solution for it, and actually becomes a very good fertilizer the way it's coming up, it shows. I received a report yesterday from Italian laboratories. So, which is for us, maybe we take it back into Ghana and we work with the Atomic Energy Commission, and we find very rapidly, once we build up the center, the decontamination of the mercury from the 3 injections. This is the only way we can do it, but meanwhile, it's become part of the structure of the brain and it's in atomic molecular. In a way, it's very easy to decontaminate it, but it's very hard to remove it, because if it's in one position, we can extract it. Dr. Rodriguez and the others have done it with the metals and calcium. But mercury is a very tricky game. So it has to be done before, or don't put in it at all from the beginning. But why they put mercury to link up the 3 injections together is beyond my understanding. I haven't understood yet. Maybe we don't have a criminal mind. That's why we don't see it.
Can I ask a question from Trevor in the live stream?
Yeah.
He says, as far as emotions go, what role does sexuality play? How come some people are gay and others straight?
Caroline is laughing. I've got to answer this very carefully, because pleasure of life touches the soul of the man. And what we see in the dimension of physicality is what our soul has decided to have. I've never seen anything wrong with which way the humanity decides to express itself in respect to his emotion, in respect to his sexuality. It's the way our soul decides and our physical body follows. But in so many ways, our soul not all the time sees the needs of the physicality in the environment of existence, or in the process of the development of the physical part, The physicality takes different shape than the emotion. And this is where the conflict comes. So in fact, there is nothing wrong, because it's us who decides from the beginning to be a male or a female outlook, the way we decide to walk or be paralyzed, the way in the future in the space we decide to manifest ourselves in different shape or forms. Maybe when we are on earth, we like the physicality of the woman to be in the body of the man, but behavior of the woman. And then in another planet, we become the vice versa, because it feeds what we need in our level of emotion. You find very strange things. If you look at the true, what I call, you call it homosexuals. But strange thing is, they understand the female, or the female understand the male, and they behave the same way. You see, we say men are single task and women are multitask. Those people are truly, what I call, take pleasure in the body of a woman or emotion of a woman, but in the body of the man. They are multitaskers, exactly like women are. There is nothing wrong in how we express our emotion in the dimension of physicality. Is what the soul is at peace counts, not what others preserve. There is nothing wrong being whatever you call it, homosexual, lesbian, or a straight and a gay, and whatever you want to do it. As long as the soul of the being is at peace with itself, and it can give more than it receives. This is what we see is the physicality have taken a form of what the emotion did not want to be in the level of the soul. So we see emotion different, but the physicality manifestation is something that slightly need adjusting in the level of the transformer, what I call the brain of the man. Either behavior or preferences does not change the emotion, the level of emotion, understanding of the emotion, and life in a physical dimension. It's very much, as we said, with what I call beautiful people. But in this essence, it's the same thing, but it's inside one body. One wants to be a physically different, where the emotion or the soul is received, the emotion received from the soul manifests itself in a different level of strength, and we see the complex behavior. It's natural, it's normal. Not everybody is A and B. We have A and a half, and then B. And there is nothing wrong to be there. There is nothing wrong with what you call homosexuality. Either way, if the soul is pleased. But if it's used in a different way, as we see for promotion of certain targets, because you get more out of it nowadays, then that is not the way it should be. We've seen a lot with the musical world. We see huge number of people pretend or become of the behavior of one another because they have a huge supporters and they become very famous very quickly. We see that in the music industry heavily now. The promotion of the sexuality, or one way or another, has become a racing team on the media, and nobody's aware of it. But if you look at it really, you see the most famous actresses, famous actors are known to the community to be, and they elevate them because then they could have a connection. Somebody is there which is like us, so we elevate them, or like to behave like us. We've seen it now with Freddie Mercury. We saw that with a couple of famous actors and actresses. And we've seen that even in the White House very recently. Promotion of lesbianity in the White House was very prominent, but it was well kept behind. And then we saw misconduct, as they said, a misconduct by the president, but in fact there was no misconduct, because the president was alone on his own. The disclosure was very hard for the White House to disclose. As a lot of you are aware, the White House has a what they call the Lesbian Suite. It was created because of the disability of one of the presidents in the past time. And as the president was disabled in a wheelchair, the wife showed preferences to be loyal to the president, and they built a separate section in the White House. It's known as the Lesbian Suite for the wife of the president, with her physical pleasures. And that apartment was used in the past 20 years as those who are close to the White House, they know who and what. The good thing is if you are open about it and don't hide it behind the other allegations. This was one of the biggest secrets in the not the last presidential household, but the one before it, and the one before and before it. As they say, the presidential lesbian suite has been used frequently in the past 20 years. This is being open about it is one of the problems of the society, because it also cannot accept it. But within them, it's very acceptable. And in a way, it feeds the soul to be happy in the condition which the physicality has found itself. Read, go back and read inside how these things are handled at the highest level. Outside, we shake hands, we say hello, we are husband and wife, but inside the behavior is different. We've seen that with the King of Belgium. This has to be opened up. He has the position of being a king, but at the same time he has a preference for male and a female. And we've seen a number of children being coming out of the marriage. Read the book, it's on the internet. I don't accuse or make accusation. 4 children are made by insemination, because he likes to have the pleasures of having his own children, but he does not like the physicality of interaction with a woman. So is the king, or so is the queen. We see that with the Middle Eastern president, what do you call it, king. He's chosen to live a celibate life, but he lives a homosexual life in the background, but he keeps his nation in front of a lot of things, and he's serving his nation. Just look into it, you'll see it. It's us who has made this a taboo, and if we take this taboo away, like the way we speak with the schizophrenic, you call it, and I call them beautiful people, now we know what it is it's a pleasure to have that we understand the totality of the transformation of the man in the physical dimension. Hiding it causes a problem, because you have to do a lot of things to hide it. Being open about it is nothing wrong with it. I learned something beautiful from Elton John years ago when he was very young, and we know he's of the homosexual part. It was very hard for him 30 years ago, 40 years ago, to let it be known in public. And when a question put to him in some way by Michael Parkinson on the live television, he answered it very direct, and he put the school of thought on the listener and not on himself. That okay, I am of the preference of having a love affair with another man, but I want to be in the physical emotion of a woman, and it's acceptable to me and my soul, and that's all that matters. And that put British public into a lot of thinking. How could this man be so? And it brought a lot of thinking in the society, in British community about 30 years ago when he opened the. It's not making it a taboo, but accepting it and understanding it takes a lot of pressure and a lot of pressure out of the families of these people. It's become known, but we have to understand is the physical dimension which taken different direction than the emotional, which is within the brain of the man. Can you give them more gans to become? Maybe then you will find out they transform to a physical body of a woman. Then that is possible. It has been done before and it can be done. but it has for them to understand how to change the physicality in the level of the emotion. Or they prefer it this way because they receive what they need as an energy to support the strength of the soul at that level of existence. These things should not be tabooed.
Hello, Mr. Keshe. I think we might have temporarily lost Mr. Keshe here.
Seems he dropped from the list of panelists here.
Okay, so bear with us for a minute while we transition back.
He's back.
Can you hear me? Yes, sorry, my laptop ran out of battery. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the problem which is with us as humanity, and it's for us to understand it. And that is, there is existence between the emotional and physical. Sometimes you find men which are very, very macho, and you find women which are very, very feminine. So the more you are, the more physicality and emotion are in line. And this is the level of understanding. And we have to understand. It's not that there is something with the world of creation. Creation shows another beauty of itself. Be it a woman in a body of a woman, emotion of a woman, a man, or one of the two. Now we understand the operation in totality is us who have to accept the reality. That it was us who didn't understand the totality. I don't support gays, I don't support lesbians, I don't support single sex or double sex or whatever. Is we understand the essence of the creation and the reason for it. Then it's for one, according to his own upbringing, according to his own phobias or whatever, to accept whichever. I wonder where we'll make the tablet for the soul, instead of giving a tablet for a headache. We should actually do it with the zinc water, that's your tablet. One of the best ways to support the elevation of the soul in the dimension of physicality of the brain is to use potassium GANs with zinc oxide. The development will be very rapid. People like with MS and ILS, this is what they need more than anything else. Where you mix on a rate of like 50-60% zinc oxide, 20% thank you very much, potassium, and 20% CO2. And you'll see a fantastic result very rapidly. People after Alzheimer's will walk away. People with MS and ILS will just walk off within months. Don't forget, we just heard from Giovanni. We fixed the brain, but now we have to fix the physicality. And physicality has been in a wheelchair for 10 years. How are you going to fix it? It takes a lot and it takes time. But when you wash it with the same on the physical structure, you see the difference very rapidly. We have to find and understand there is a new way, the natural way, without any medicine, that you can change a lot of things. But now we have to understand that most of the problems can be fixed through the brain, and body has shown itself in physicality. Do we want to change a man who has the pleasure of emotion of the woman but physicality of the man? Don't we create more mayhem inside him? I've been through this enforced physical change by outside. When I was a young boy, in the first year of the school, me writing with the left hand was a big crime. Oh, I remember my mother and my teachers. He is left-handed. I was the first left-handed boy in the family. They came to an agreement. They did a coup d'etat, a revolution against me between the teachers, the school, and my mother. I do half of the homework of the rest of the class in the evening, but I have to do it with my right hand. And they forced me for months to write with the right hand. Now I have the capability, I write both with the right and the left. But naturally I'm left-handed. But I remember they enforced what I call coup d'etat to my mom. This is not fair. I am left-handed. I enjoy being left-handed. And she said, no, you have to write. There is something wrong in your brain. You write right and left hand. And I went through this commotion of forced to write with right hand. And I can write at the moment sometimes, if I put my mind to it, with both hands the same thing at the same time. It's giving me an insight into injustices of man just to look right in physical dimension. And I carried that pain with me for a long, long time because it was too much. I am left-handed and I enjoyed being left-handed, but I was forced to use the right hand with any trick possible. I remember once they start paying me, if you do the right hand good, you get this and that. We have to leave the soul to be in the dimension of physicality as chosen and appreciate this beauty. Next question.
Mr. Keshe, this is Zane Lott. I want to thank you for everything. A while back, you had told us to remind you about something. Do you remember that? Do we have time for it?
Explain.
It was just in a teaching of, I guess about a month back, you had asked us to remind you to tell us something.
I can't remember. You have to
Can you be specific? Because he's reminded us to tell him about a few things in the past thing.
Well, I should have went back in my notes. I'm sorry.
Who's speaking?
Zane Lott.
No.
Okay, well, maybe something get jogged there. We do have an ongoing question with Carrie Carrister. We'd like to ask about the creation of ganses in a particular method and so on. Maybe we could get that in. Would that be okay?
Yes. Explain.
Okay, Carrie, if you're ready, I'll go ahead there and see if we can frame your question. I know it has to do with the creation of the of ganses with the carbon stick method. And could you explain about that and ask your question and see if we can get the conversation going on that?
Can you hear me, Rick? I just unmuted. Would you like me to ask?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Keshe. It's Carrie Ellis, and I have so appreciated your teachings, and I have traveled some and taught some workshops. I really appreciated last week when you talked about the washing of the caustics off. I know I've always been really careful to teach that, and I know at one point when the carbon stick GANS method was brought forward, I know right now you're really affirming that the primary way to make GANS is with the nano-coated copper. And I appreciate that. I honor that. I've always taught that. I also know that when the carbon stick method came out, I know Arvis brought that forward, and I will say about that method that I have really loved it. I loved the GANs that I've made, and it has seemed to do really good things. I know that you're wanting to make sure that everything is made in a very particular way so we get the proper results. And so I just wanted to know if you would maybe talk about that a little bit. I know there's been many people have asked, and I think it is a question that's kind of up right now. And I know that there may be a question about if there's, I understand that the carbon stick method is maybe not necessarily approved right at the moment. So I'm asking about.
Let me put you.
Yes, please.
Nothing is approved, nothing is disapproved.
Okay.
It's just we understand the difference. We got to understand the difference. Carbon is 12 and copper is 60. So it's a force of 5 to 1.
Mhm.
So this is where it comes from. With the zinc and nano-coated copper, we create a magnetic field from the nucleus point of view. This is the difference. Where with the carbon, you create the atomic structure withdrawal, where in that position, the process is so rapid that you produce carbon, which you have to support it with the oxygen. And if you produce CO2 from the physical element of the carbon, you are connected to the physical dimension of the material. It's very much like the iron, which is in a metal condition, in a physical matter condition, coming in touch with the GANs of the amino acid produces the blood. But if you put the GANs of iron in a different shape or form into the amino acid, you produce a pure blood. Hemoglobin, the real hemoglobin. You still produce the same, but is not the same strength of the same order. There are two different things. The iron you take as a tablet is very much different than the iron you digest from eating, let's say, red meat. The one you take as a tablet is in a matter condition, and you absorb all of it. In the one you take with meat, body only takes what it needs. This is the problem with a lot of the food. This is one of the reasons I always explain, even in the teaching earlier today, that when you take your magnesium, zinc and copper, you take it with CO2 and zinc oxide, because you create a condition of entrapping it or delivering it in the environment of the body of the man. And body only takes what it needs. When you take a magnesium tablet, all of it goes into, because it's stronger, so it enforces itself. When you take your tablets, even like for potassium, calcium, magnesium and the rest, you take it in the environmental condition of the zinc and copper and CO2. It's a totally different process. Now you convert, you distribute it as an atomic molecular GANs level, where the others is different. The same thing is with the CO2 sticks. You have a huge massive force sitting at the copper, 5 times more, and you literally strip it out. It's just taking your clothes off yourself, or you're standing in a huge wind tunnel and getting everything stripped off you very fast. That's all it is. But the essence of the carbon you create in a zinc plate, magnesium, copper plate, is a GANs state magnetic field. It's totally different structure plasma. Where with a copper stick, you create a CO2. It's very fast, but it's not recommended as such for the use as for drinking. What do you call it? The plasma water, unless your body needs it. It's a big difference. The Bentley and the Rolls Royce are still both cars. Depends which way you want to drive it.
May I ask, one of the discussions that has come up is the thought that the carbon is a nanomaterial, and I'd like to know what your thought on that is. And some,
Can you explain? I missed the word. You just got disconnected.
Yes. The question that some discussion that has come up is that the carbon is a nanomaterial because it's burned. Say if it was a piece of some bamboo makes a nice carbon stick, and I know that the purity of the carbon stick would make a difference, but the idea I think that started it was that it was a hexagonal structure, molecular structure, as I believe the nano-coated copper is? And I'm understanding the difference in the molecular weight difference and all of
Yes, you
that.
see, there's a very big difference in the understanding. There is nothing wrong with both of them, but what do you expect for them to operate under? You understand? That's the difference. You'll find out when you work with a gas plasma, which is CO2, you have the natural effect. With a CO2 which you create from the stick, you have a different dimension, the strength of the plasma. Do you think your body creates that kind of condition? I don't think so.
Okay, very good.
As we say in English, horses for courses. Just because it's a horse doesn't mean you can put it on the racetrack or put it on the flat race.
How about making nano-coated copper GANs with a coil? If I'm in a lot of countries where only simple things are available. For instance, right now I'm in very small villages in the Yucatan of Mexico, where I may teach a couple of classes, and getting materials is a little more complicated. So a copper wire, a heavy wire that could be made into a coil versus a plate.
You know, in a third world, in a condition like you are, in a condition you already have access to pure carbon, which is being converted, if you want to look at it that way. The ashes from wood, yeah?
Yes.
That's your best solution.
Okay.
If you, let me explain, please.
Okay, please.
If you make ganses of the ashes of wood, yeah, because the wood has already gone through the transformation in the what do you call it, in the process, as the same as do the carbon stick they make.
Yes.
But
yes,
you'll find out is how you played in what you needed. In South America, for centuries, people have used. I was explaining this to Dr. Klaus very recently. I think that the South Americans centuries back used to burn wood for heating, and then when they threw the ashes out, they found out they're getting very good results in growing food. In the places that food never grew, they start growing beautiful vegetation, what they needed to eat. And then they actually start burning the woods to create areas where they could put the ashes that they could cultivate. If you go to South America, in places you see lands which are totally black. Because for centuries they literally burn wood to create ashes, to create nanomaterial, to absorb energy, that the vegetation could grow on it.
yes.
We see this is done by the Israelis very clearly after 1960s war. When they took over the Sinai Desert, the Israelis came up with a fantastic system. They tarmacked the desert and they brought new soil, topsoil on the tarmac. And the oranges you see coming from Israel comes from desert. The big oranges, which is because Israel doesn't have that land mass to do. They understood the potential of using the land, isolating it, or putting a topsoil with a lot of things on it. We see this now, we're becoming part of the norm in Africa. We're trying to change desert to a food center this way, literally by gas material. This is what I suggested to the Chinese government. As you know, the central China desert is moving towards Beijing very heavily, and they've tried everything. And the simplest thing for Beijing to do is to literally water the gas and put seeds on it, and it grows, it solidifies the more of the desert, and it costs nothing. What you're talking about is the same thing, creating a gas or creating environment of the gas.
Yes.
When I was in China last time, years ago, this was a discussion what we're going to do with the movement of deserts into Beijing. We'll run Beijing over in the next 50 years, 100 years, most probably. But by changing the environment, you let the sand be there, you create a condition where the trees can root and plants can root, and it stops the movement of the desert. There is no other solution. And it costs literally nothing for the Chinese government. And you do the same. When you put in South America, you say in a remote village or whatever, the ashes are your best gases. Because they're already converted into nanomaterial. You have to find a way to convert it. Put it in a soul ratio, a different, connect the electric connection with a discharge, and you will see gases were produced in the middle. This is what I say. If you understand, you don't need to do anything. If you comprehend the technology in its true sense, you can always adapt it to what you need. If you remember, you forget, and it's not there. And a lot of our people just remember this is what is done, I have to copy. But if you comprehend it, you can change it. In many times, the central part of the, what do you call it, the batteries are fantastic, what is needed. I always said the biggest gift Europeans gave to the African was a pure 99%, nearly 100% copper sheets in the batteries they couldn't dispose of in Europe. They thought they dump it in Africa. So it's the best resources now for Africa to open the batteries, take the pure copper sheets out, which is spend a lot of money taken out of Africa to be processed now back to Africa in the back door to feed the nation. We have to find a solution in what's on the table. I use these, Caroline and I, we used to go around Kortrijk in Belgium. We used to buy the batteries. The guys, they thought, what the idiots, why they're buying these batteries for €1 each? But they didn't know I can make a €1,000 system out of it. It's what we see. We used to wash and clean them, and even Armand can tell you, we've done this in the Sansano. The beauty of it is what you don't know, you don't know how to use it. But in these kind of conditions, you have everything.
Yes, and there's also a battery that has a zinc plate and a carbon stick in it. So I know some have been utilized. Yes.
All the batteries you buy, what do you call it, disposable battery, the casing just open, go around and collect batteries and empty the inside. And the casing is the biggest resource for humanity for power. You can even use the stick in the middle, the carbon and the zinc outside. Now you produce food. It's lost its energy in the physical dimension, but if you understand the power of the GaNs and what it can do, the center pin, the pure graphite in the center, you wash it, you take it out, you have the zinc casing, you wash it, you clean it, and then nano-coat the zinc and put this. You got your food. The best energy resource, the best thing for masses. And because it's supported by zinc but not by copper, it feeds the emotion much easier.
Yes, beautiful. I know many who have been utilizing that. And I think there are many of us who will continue to listen, Mr. Keshe, for your ongoing comments on this. And we're all learning all the time. And many people are, outside of the first world countries are trying to find ways to do this in the simplest way. And we want to be doing it right. So thank you so much for talking about it. And
I tell you something you can do if you understand it, if it can be explained in a different way. When you open these batteries, you have a center graphite in the middle, you create a CO2 or whatever. Use one plate, one battery cover as nano-coated, one as non-nano-coated, and then create a GaNs of zinc oxide, which you can use it for feeding. You can feed the physical body of the man through the soul and the emotion of the man, that the man does not need any physical food. This is a secret of those who move to the level of not eating, and those who tried it and it says, sometimes I can eat, I cannot eat. If you use the zinc oxide at the level of the soul, which means take the GaNs out, make the GaNs of zinc oxide, make another GaNs of zinc oxide, and the ratio difference produce the zinc oxide in the middle from the two GaNs, you can use that oxide, this liquid plasma, to feed the emotion and the soul of the man that the physicality does not need no food. Those are people who've been drinking fruit, CO2 cocktails and gases, plasma water. They are trying to feed the physicality, to feed the emotion that it does not need to feed the soul. But in a way, if you feed the emotion directly at the level of the soul, then your physicality is fed. You don't need food. You feed the headquarters, the rest are already fed. That's the simplicity of it.
Yes.
And this is what a lot of people don't understand. In the third world nations, what I call the development of the technology in the West has led to a lot of batteries to be dumped in the third world nation. And it's actually a food supply, it's an energy supply. Only thing is how to use it. You know, they say where there is a muck, there is money in English language. The muck is what they throw out at us with these batteries. If you understand how to use it, you have a massive energy resources. Take the zinc out, nano-coat either side, create a GaNs of zinc in the middle. Take the copper or the carbon which you had it from originally, because it's already nano-coated itself, nano-coat one layer of it, and then use the GaNs which you produced in the zinc between the two plates, put it around the tissue, even a leaf of a tree does, wrap it with the GaNs inside it, and put the zinc nano-coated on top of it. You got yourself a natural battery that lasts years.
Beautiful. May I ask you also to talk a little bit about the electricity that it used? I know in all different ranges with GaNs making. I know the plain nano-coated copper GaNs we make originally with no electricity. Then some run a wire in between the metals just to use the natural currents of water or the water. And then
you're having trouble with the transmission there. It's breaking up sometimes. So
let me talk a little slower too. Question about the use of electricity with the GaNs process, and knowing that with our original nano-coated copper process, we don't use electricity. And then some have come up with a method of just running a wire in between the metals in the GaNs process to flow the natural electricity in the salt water in between the metals. And then the third method would be to add a little tiny trickle charge, and some maybe connecting a battery, some connecting a phone charger. And then what we've dealt with is reducing that, because usually the amount coming through is too much, and we're trying to keep it below 1 amp or 1 volt. But I'm curious what you're...
Is that for producing GaNs material?
I'd say when the carbon stick method is used, that seems to really help the process. I mean, I've had people who've had a little regulator thing that could cut it down to about 0.56 or 0.05.
Can I explain something?
Please.
The process, because once you enter the GaNs level, the current you put through the matter state is the creation of the flow at the matter level. That's why you put all the energies at that strength into the material. That's why you get a faster result. Now with connecting a wire, you have specified this is the energy I need. You put a filter on it. The wire connection is the filter limit. It's a limitation you dictate. Then, because you dictate, all the energy at that level comes to the system, and that's why it works faster. Where in the other ways, randomly what is available at that level is created and used. So in a way, that's why you see a massive. In a way, when you connect, even we do connect through a power supply, or sorry, to a fan or a LED. We are dictating that this is the range we want to stay. Anything above we take out. But when you put a wire directly between the two, you dictate exactly what you want. And you don't dissipate it. So it gets used in nano-coat or release of the atomic structure from one or the other. You live in a village, but you have a lot of noise of cars. It must be a very good village.
I'm muted, so I don't know where that's coming
Somebody is
from.
coming. No, so this is the problem, and this is it's not a problem, it's understanding more. And in a way, the way the speed we have bulldozed through knowledge in 3 years is now like questions you ask is good to be asked, that it opens up, clarifies a lot of things. As I said, we can teach about the soul of the man and elevation of the soul. At the same time, we can teach about the physicality and dimension of the matter in gases and nano-coating. Because we have new people and we have people who are elevated to that level of understanding.
So thank you. And one more question. In a remote area, say, what would be, I mean, I know we're taught to use an LED light to get CO2 GaNs versus zinc GaNs in basically the same making process. Any additional thoughts on how to get CO2 instead of zinc if, say, you don't have an LED available? What
you
are
mean
the...
to produce gases?
Yeah.
Nothing, just connect it to a different piece of metal than the two. If you have a wire copper coming from the copper plate, and you have a copper wire coming from the zinc plate, one is nano-coated and the other one, just get a piece of aluminum and connect it to the aluminum, the two wires from the two plates. You need to create a balancing that anything over is used, then you get a constant. When you produce CO2 with a LED, for example, you produce a specific type of GaNs. You have dictated the condition. The same as when you connect it to a motor now, the GaNs, even you still produce CO2, but it's tuned to the level of the motor. When you do it with LED, it's down to the level of the LED power consumption. Anything above is dissipated because below it doesn't move. So anything, so you put a filter. These connections you add. If you connect one to another directly, you don't do anything because you are actually using the plates and matter state for it, and you have no control in such a way of you doing the filtering. Just use a third element that in between the two can dissipate the energy, and you create a specific energy CO2s.
Beautiful. So that a little piece of
something you can do. Get yourself a piece of wood, take the skin off, and connect it to that. You produce totally different GaNs. You produce GaNs of CO2. This is what you have in nature. That's then you produce a GaNs at the level of the vegetation, which is absorbed, is best for the vegetarians.
Beautiful. We've
This
also...
is what you can do. You can, but the thing is, once it goes dry, you have to change it.
Okay, interesting. So another thing that we do...
That's the fact. You should have done it by now.
That's exciting. It's exciting. So your capacity...
If you take the stem out, you clean the. You see, the skin is a nano layer. You don't want. There is no contact. You need the dynamic one. So you need the live connection. Put the stick in the glass of water and connect it into higher part. You still get the same. You keep it moist. You have to keep the transfer of energy across.
So beautiful. And a little more...
Let me touch on something. Sorry about that.
Go ahead, please.
In the battery operation, you use acid, which means the giving of energy. That's what's because a high level of hydrogen available. In a connection with a salt, you create life. Energy at the level of life. That's where you produce gases. This is the difference. That's why we use salt. So when you create salt, the energy absorbed from the environment dictates what kind of gas is produced. Where with the alkaline in the alkaline base, so it dictates you want to absorb energy to create life. Where with acidic, you give so much that the life cannot be sustained. That's the difference why we use salt or we use acid condition. And the faster we understand this, the easier it becomes in the elevation of understanding of the totality. So When you're dealing in that side, you're going to produce gases which is connected to alkaliness. Use exactly where it comes from, a plant, a branch, what do you call it? A dynamic life is the same. So you can use it, the level, if you like, let's say, a gans of, let's say, cauliflower. You get the stem of cauliflower, take the skin off, and the green part of the leaf is yours. So the gans you use is at the strength of the cauliflower. Very simple.
Wow, that is awesome.
I thought you should have understood that by now.
That is amazing. That's very cool.
Yeah, but this is
So
what,
this
that's
is
how
a
you
very,
will. Pardon?
I'd love to throw out, when I was teaching in South Africa, some wonderful people brought shungite, which is a carbon-based rock with a hexagonal structure, and we made CO2 GANs with it, zinc GANs, and it really made, in place of the carbon stick, and it made a beautiful GANs. So I'm curious if you have a comment on that. Also, if you can speak a little more to how much electricity is proper to run through in the carbon stick method if we were using a trickle charge into there, either from a
No,
battery or a
okay.
reduced phone charger, or not. I mean, that seems to make the GANs work, really.
Yeah, but the thing is, we do the same thing in the factories. We put big plates, we put bigger 50-liter containers, and we connect them. Then we choose a power supply. We put 2, 3 volts, 1 amp, 2 amp, and we see massive production. Because in that level, we are not concerned about anything, because we just need a detachment or attachment of the material to the coils. The rate of the current dictates the rate of the flow and the color of the material you get, because it's different energy, has different colors. This is the beauty with a lot of teachings, which a lot of people don't understand. You put a copper plate and a zinc plate, normal current, you get CO2. You put a nano-coated copper with a non-nano-coated copper, you get a very green production zinc copper oxide. You increase the voltage, what you get, it becomes orangish color, because now you're separating most of it in the atomic layer, because there's not enough oxygen in the water to be oxidized. When you increase the voltage very high, the separation is so fast that it doesn't even go through the separation in a GANS state. It goes directly into a nanomaterial, and you collect nanomaterial from the bottom. The rate of the flow dictates the speed of the separation of the molecular into atomic and then to a gas. That's all it is.
Wonderful. GANs is just such a wonderful material, and I know those of us who make a lot of it love it. It's such a art.
You know, the GANS is the most pleasurable material in the world if you know what to do with it.
It is.
I tell you why. A body of a man, a body of a woman is made of GANs. We haven't extended our knowledge because of the taboos we carry in our head. But what do we touch when we hold our partner? A big plasma of GANs. Why do you take pleasure when you hug
That's
your?
beautiful.
You understand? I bet if I connect you to let's say a leaf of a tree and your partner, you produce a beautiful GANs if you sit in the bathroom, in the pot. We have created limitation to our own understanding, but the reality is no different. Why do we feel good when we hold our partner? Why do we feel good when we hold our children? Why do we take pleasure in holding our grandchildren? Because we are more mature, they are less. And in giving, we take what they don't need and we mature them. And that's why we kiss, or we Why kissing is so common in man? Because it's the act of emotion and transfer of the physicality at the same time. And we have learned to
Beautiful.
do it the quick way.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I see Arvis, who's the person who really, I think, brought forth the carbon stick method originally. He says use a solar cell. And I know he uses a solar cell usually.
Doesn't matter what you use, it just depends on the speed of separation you put through the material.
Okay.
If I was you or anybody else, do not waste the carbon stick. Use it the way I said. You have a huge energy sources if you understood the measure.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking about this. Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other question?
Mr. Keshe?
Yes.
This is Baghdad. It's from Iraq. I know the voice.
No, no, I'm from Germany. It's Leon.
Who is it?
Leon,
From?
Germany.
Ah,
Hello.
okay.
Hello.
You sounded like our friend from Iraq. He's usually come.
I am there. I am there.
Hi, how are you? Good.
So my question.
Can I ask a question? What is Azar? We miss her today.
I waited for her to ask. Then I
I don't see her on the list here today for a change. So
she must be in Iran. Carry on, please.
So my question is on the planet Earth a constant element balance in respect to the sun means that we got, for example, a rate of gold, maybe 50 tons gold on this planet, and it can't be more and it can't be less because of in respect to the sun magnetic fields. So if I took, for example, gold from this planet and fly to another planet, this gold should be what with the gold I took should be just disappear after a time. So I think it's not possible to take elements from this planet to another planet somehow, and our planet would reproduce these gold which was taken, or whatever water which was taken again. And this also.
Let me answer you. Your assumption is 100% wrong. Not even 99%.
Yes.
The planet absorbs and converts energy from the environment of its solar system. And it has no limitation in what it absorbs. It absorbs according to the strength of its central field, gravitational magnetic field. So if we are in an environment where there is such a GAN's magnetic field is available, it will convert it to gold. You can take as much as you like, but if we are in a position in the environment where given a specific magnetic field is available that converts into gold, it will convert itself back to gold. It's the same as you say that the energy oxygen on this planet is constant. It's not, because the interaction between the fields of the Earth and the Sun continuously produce hydrogen and oxygen and everything else. Where do they go? In the breeding system, in the process of life of the fields of this planet, we convert it to another field of strength which is needed by other planets or other structures in the universe. If you think of it, the amount of energy produced, the hydrogen, nitrogen, by the interaction of the fields of the Earth and the Sun, we should be continuously blowing up with a new size atmosphere. We don't do, because there's a limitation in what we convert, what we don't use, or what we use, we release it into the atmosphere, back into the planet, the solar system, that the others can use. So if we pass in a position that the fields of it are available, then at that point we convert all the materials. It'll be raining stuff, water, it'll be raining gold, which does. In reality, if you could measure the nanostructure, the given strength of the field of the planet, where is equal to the gold, you'll find out that you'll be collecting gold. This is the reason why the oceans are holding more gold than the planet, the solid part. Because it's dynamic, they create continuously diverse field strength. Some of it is at the level of gold, so they attract it from the environment of the plasma of the solar system. We even, when the man understands in the future, we even create gold which comes from the structure of the fields of the galaxies. We are not educated well enough to understand or to be detected, but with the knowledge we're gaining in the future, man will tell you this gold is from the conversion of the planet internally itself. This gold has coming from the space of the plasma of the solar system, and this gold is from the plasma of the galaxy or from the solar system. Because when you transfer, the time is non-existence.
Yes, this I understand. My worry was just about when we use technologies like that and start maybe producing water, then we will have too much on this planet.
No, it's a balance. Whatever we don't need, we release.
Like a catastrophe or something, or taking energy from somewhere which is not belong to us. I think the planet has somehow maybe a mechanism or has a mechanism to have these always in balance. But when we start to thinking to do something good or something better, it could disbalance something. So I thought there must be an answer in plasma technology, because plasma technology is just how nature works, and this is why I asked. Also, there's a question, please, once more. When I take, for example, again, a metal out of the earth, I didn't ask. I just take it. It was also not given to me. I just take it, and it's taken unfreely. It's given unfreely. Somehow I think that the position, this special microwave field in the materia is still connected to this place. So that if this microwave would become the opportunity or the possibility to go back, it would just disappear at I don't know where, and goes back to the place where it's from, because it was taken and not given.
The thing is, when you live within a structure like the planet, in a way you've been given the freedom of the rights as the others use you. If you look at it, you think you consume everything, but you have to understand the body of the man is a converter. So you convert the energy to existence of the others to feed. But you only look what you put in your mouth. But in that process of conversion, it's not just that you create heat, you create huge amount of energy which other elements may be visible or not visible to man need for their existence. We are all conversion system at different strength, and you always find that the other things exist because of the conversion we do with our body. But it's not all one-way traffic. If you take so much energy and it's all stayed in, you would have become a balloon. By the time you're 50, you'll be the size of a nation. But we don't, because we give energy back. We're all part of a conversion process in one shape or another. Be the brick, be the body of the man, be the body of a bird, is all the same. And there's always a taker for what is not, what is given freely. If you look, you have all the birds in the garden, but each one eats certain seed or certain part of a plant because there is enough for the others. So at the same time, it's the same. The body of the man is the body of the earth, the planet. So you cannot diminish it because it takes energy and it gives. And what it gives is what is given the freedom, the right of the path to use. It depends how much we need that we take. And instead, that point is the same. When you see a tree growing, it's not that you watered it. It's the energy which freely given by the earth or the entity that it allows it to take what it needs at that point. It's the receiver who decides what it wants to receive, not the giver. I always say to Caroline, I give everything. I give my life. I give my love. Depends who wants to take what from it, and then they elevate to that level.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? How are we within the time? Yeah, we got
Mr.
40.
Keshe, I will make it very quick.
We're at about 3 hours and 15,
Really?
3 hours and 15 minutes at this point.
Okay, no
I
problem.
will take from you 2 minutes only.
Yeah.
Good day, Mr. Keshe, Jalal.
Yes.
I have two questions for you, and quick question, and I have good news for you and Caroline, and I have a question for Rick because I asked Rick to promote me. I raised my hand and took a little bit longer, and then I was concentrating and said, "Rick, open, promote me," and just in this second, and after 1 second, I promoted. So I, for Caroline, this is feedback. Not next week. It's the day after. So this is good news for me also. Stop
So you
wishing
are
and
learning the
order.
trick to get it straight away.
Yes, yes. Stop wishing. Just order it.
You
Okay.
learn the language of the soul.
Yes, I hope so, sir. Um, the first question. Today we are learned to make high level of GANs, and if we are doing that high level of GANs, are we making also high level of amino acid also?
Yes.
Okay. Are we using salt with it, with the
What
CO2
thought
water?
you
Or
want? Depends what kind of emotion you want to create and what kind of physicality. Because each
okay,
gas carries a different emotion level.
okay. Next question and quick. Is there any talks with the Arabic nations for this technology or something in the back, or still
You don't
nothing?
know what happened last week. I wrote Muhammad off. You think what they're doing in the background.
Yeah, you spoken about that.
As you know, I said this in a very, very strange way, but it's a lot of reality to it. If for those who understand, you know, they brought Moses, and the at the time any male child was killed, and somehow Moses ended up in the basket and was brought up by the king to bring the end of himself. And when he became a king, I've been brought up and nurtured by the Belgians to end up the Belgian monarchy at the end of kingship, but they don't see it. The same has happened. I've been brought up in a culture of understanding Islam and Christianity and what you call Judaism, because this way, by knowing, you understand not the weakness, but you understand the point of mistakes, and you can correct it. So, for you, what we do with the Islamic world is very simple. As the term has finished, Ayatollah Khamenei said once that we do not know what to do with this guy. And I think now they know they could have done a lot, but they didn't do it because there's a time and a term. We don't look at it as an Islamic country, we don't look at it as a Jewish state, we don't look at it as a Christian state, we look at it as one nation. So, as we see, every child has different behavior. It's for us to understand it and give it enough that itself comes back home to the father. And that's the whole structure. They can kick, they can shout, but they cannot change the course.
And Mr. Keshe, I got an email yesterday from, it says, Dear Mr. Tavakoli, we have one group, NGO, non-governmental organization, in Iran with 2,000 members, and they are research about free energy. We are interested in collaboration with your group and make your plasma reactor in Iran.
Tell them walk to the Sharif Tehran University, ask for, or go to the president's office, ask for the research center in president's office. They have everything there. They can speak with a senior professor or senior doctor, called Dr. Jalali, and they put you right. Iran has been using the technology in different way. We already developed it. As I said, I hope the people who are organizing in the background will be able to organize it. That will be in Iran in the next few weeks as part of the teaching. And I know there's a havoc in Iran. If I go to Iran, what's going to do with him this time? But we go with the message of peace and we teach everything to the Iranians as the same. But it's a pleasure. I understand the language and the culture. I hope I do understand part of it. The last time I was in Iran, I said I'm a foreigner in my own country because the culture has changed so much. But the culture of knowledge is the same, doesn't matter where you go. In Iran, we have a huge support base with the Iranian community across the world. We know that. And so it's part of the nature.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. There's one thing that I'd like to show, a picture from Fo, or Ed as he's known as, I guess. And he had a question about it, so perhaps we can have a look at that. See, let me get it set up here. Okay, I think you can see that. I'm not sure if it's coming through, actually. Let me see. Okay, can you see that image?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, good. And okay, so these are the 3 reactors and 3 reactors, double core reactors. And Ed, do you want to actually speak about this perhaps? Fo, as you're known as. I'll unmute you and see if you can speak there. I'm not sure if you can. Hello?
Hello, Rick. Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Hi. Can you ask your question or clarify
Yes,
what?
my question is, can we...
Who's speaking from where, please?
Let's say it's Fo from the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
To support the body in the 95th workshop, you said if you had the bottom of the star formation, you can use yourself as the 4th reactor. And I thought if most part of the body that is controlling the physical side of the body, if we can support that and create a tubular formation so that the midpoint becomes like the solar plexus to support the cells of the body, and by that creating also support of the part of the brain, like it's the 7th reactor or the 9th, not just what you call it, on the level of strength of a higher plasma, so that the strength of the copper of the physicality can raise to the strength of the zinc of the soul, and in that way balances the body and the soul at the same time. Do you understand?
There is nothing wrong in what you're explaining. Actually makes a lot of sense. Well, it depends how much you want to elevate it and how fast. But is the body in the dimension of the emotion of the brain ready to accept such a change?
Yes, that's always the question, but I want to try.
No, but you never know until you don't try. We see, and this is what I promote very much with the Keshe Foundation, the health manufacturer in Austria, that the faster we move into dynamic systems, GANs dynamic systems, the better and faster results we'll see. But we have to understand how these mixtures are done, how they are put together, and how they can be applied. You will see a lot of new dynamic systems coming from Austria very soon, because it's the essence of understanding is closest to the reality. But if we just put ganses of materials we produce, or we put ganses of the ganses and put inside, we'll see totally different results.
Well, I was planning to use zinc oxide GANs in the inner core that is acidic, and the mixed
water. If I was you, I'd never do that.
It's too high?
No. You have to understand the process. You're trying to feed the soul. You're not trying to extract from the soul. So when you want to promote a feed, you put it on a magnetical, not in the gravitational in the center. You understand? The way to do it is very much understanding. Yeah, understand what you want to do first of all. If you're trying to extract it, yes, but it's the same. You have to understand what you're doing, what is the purpose. The reality is when you put the CH3 inside, as it's going out, is radiated out, it gives more to the zinc that the zinc can give more to the body.
No, I was not planning on using CH3. I was
but you have to, how you're trying to drain your soul.
No, no, it's a mixture of the mixed water GANs that it is slightly acidic, and the zinc.
Yeah, what is that? You're trying to give it energy. You want to radiate energy out.
Yes, and
so
this and the outer core is alkaline, so it's gravitational, and in that way the fields have to connect.
Try it. Let me know how you feel.
Well, I'm busy on it. It just takes time.
Let me. You're from Netherlands. Let me explain to you something which has become important, and we have to discuss it as part of the Keshe Foundation work. You Dutch have created a huge problem for yourselves and for a lot of other people, but it's not a problem. It's what, in fact, what we said months ago, years ago. I'm going to be very diplomatic, very correct, very direct.
No, you can be blunt with me.
Oh, not you. I'm talking to all of Keshe Foundation and the rest of the world. That's my problem. You're not my problem. My problem is bigger than you. Or is your problem is bigger than you. You Dutch have a habit of freedom of expression and everything else. And that's given you a totally different insight to the world of creation. I enjoy being around you. For years I've enjoyed Dutch mentality from my childhood. But in the recent past, many Keshe Foundation supporters, especially in Holland and some of North European countries, have started making ganses of these funny mushrooms, if you know what I'm talking about. And in a way, Before, you used to smoke these mushrooms and used to feel internally the impression of freedom of the mind from the soul and the body. But some of you, the way as you walk down the streets of Amsterdam, you know exactly what I'm talking about. As you walk, you go high in emotion and the feeling, where there's a huge consumption of what I call narcotics. Even the police officers working in that area are very high themselves because they consume so much the air. I've seen more police officers in center of Amsterdam high than actually the drug traffickers and the smokers. But it's a joke between us and them. But what the reality has happened, many Dutch and some of the Northern European people have started making the gans of these mushrooms. And they are putting them in the dynamic cores, they are putting them on the coating of the coils, and they are creating huge emotional interaction. At the point that even some of the people are high 24 hours a day, plus the neighbors and plus half of the district. Because before it was you who smoked it, but now it's the field of it which goes across kilometers. And the more and more people are producing these, we see a reaction coming up in Holland and in the Dutch mentality or environments where the freedom of the use of the mushrooms has created a new dimension to pleasure of man. The whole neighborhood at the moment is high in some cases because the field transfer is very high. We had cases that we had to deal with, and it's come to the point that we have to bring it to the front. Please do not make gansers of mushrooms or cocaine or others which you have done. I know it's one off buy and you're high for whole day and night for a long time, but you're making a lot of your neighbors who don't want to be in that status. I know some Keshe Foundation followers have used in dynamic system and they report all sorts of things to us, but please refrain from using these just because you have the knowledge, or speak to all the neighbors, decide everybody wants to be high 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a week. Because these systems go beyond the dimension of the house. But on the other hand, as I said months ago, years ago, if you understood this, it's then the end to drug trafficking. Because now one shot can give you everything you need for years and you don't need to buy. So it makes the drug traffickers bankrupt and we get rid of the biggest menace on mankind. But now that we see some people have moved, because I had to deal with a couple of cases recently, personally direct, is that please refrain from producing. Understand what you're doing is not anymore what do you call it, a smoke, a joint. Now is the whole neighborhood joints which is getting fed by it. In so many ways you're making, this was a fantastic, when they told me this, I looked at it, says, now what I've been telling them, they don't understand, now they understand, but now we have a physical manifestation of it. If the gans of the mushroom can cover neighborhoods, now you understand when we told you put zinc oxides in your cores and rotate and put it in the waters, will reach the whole humanity. We needed proof of the pudding, and in eating it, a lot of people are reporting these kind of things. So we know the fields go beyond the system and affects everybody. In one way, those of you who were using zinc oxide and CO2 not only elevate your own soul, but whatever is needed by your neighbors and the rest, you find a whole change in the neighborhood. But at the same time, those of you in Holland who found the freedom and tried with mushrooms, now you're making the whole neighborhood very happy. But you got to ask them if they want to be happy. Maybe you live in a very good neighborhood from now on. Even the guy who comes to steal, he finds so much pleasure in giving that he leaves something behind him stealing. I made myself very clear in this because we see this now in the past few months, couple of times. And please, if you even do it, put it in a remote part of the house, or remote, not the house, the garden or whatever, that somebody is not near other neighbors, and you don't make everybody, you don't make the chickens flying in the end of the garden of the neighbors, if you understand what I'm talking about.
Well, one thing is sure, there are no drugs or mushrooms in it.
I know, but some innovative, adventurous Keshe Foundation in Holland have tried it, and in other countries, and we have seen it. It's a continuation. This is what we said before. The we do not talk about it till it comes. Let those who want to say whatever, let them do, because they find fault in everything. We we see it as it is. It's culture, in part of the culture of the nations. In a way, you can walk down the road and give everybody a chance of something. They'll all be very happy people. You get the same elevation with the gas water of the same thing as you get with CO2. And it's a very interesting, because he has proven the technology to be 100% correct, how energy is transferred from materials. But our dearest friend, especially in Holland, with the freedom you have proven a very big point that the gas materials work. They touch the emotion. And please understand what you're doing.
Well, in a way, I know from
I know somebody you
our
know very
foundation
well.
that
I know somebody you know very well that he's using it quite very nicely for the whole neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about.
I think so.
I think so, yeah. Me too. Thank you very much. Thanks for the point.
Thank you very much.
I want to explain to you something very interesting, expanding onto the same thing. Many drugs, pharmaceutical drugs, are so expensive that people cannot afford, and many children die because of it. Prohibited cost. If you have understood the operation of the gas, you can use the gas water of the same at no cost. As I said, we bankrupt the pharmaceuticals, but we still need them to use it if we need to. So, for example, if you have paracetamol and you don't want to keep a paracetamol at home, you can keep the gas of paracetamol as a gas water. Does the same thing, but you got to know how to do it, how to make it, at what concentration you need to take. There are some prescription drugs which people cannot afford, and we see it especially in the United States. The cost of medicine is prohibited, so people can't afford paying it. So in one dose, you can create enough that you don't need to commit yourself to bankruptcy with it. These are the things that the technology has got on offer, but it's for us to understand it, and you have to follow the dosage and acceptance of it. It's not anymore the gas of a CO2. It's understanding the gas of what you call what people suffer from, what they can't afford, the medicine for it because of prohibited prices. This way, you can produce the gases of it and use the gas water of it in a very measurable amount. Because don't forget, when you convert to the gas, body takes what it needs from it. You cannot take an overdose. So, but about 30 milliliter of water is usually recommended for any consumption. And if you're on a heavy, drug prescriptions, which breaking in a way, taking food away from you just to be able to afford to stay from the pain, you can produce the gas water of it, very simply, as you know, and you can consume it without breaking the bank. At least put food on the table instead of just worrying about the next injection. This is a solution in a way with a drug addiction. If you add to the same zinc oxide, you satisfy the emotion and people walk away from drug addiction. I've taught that many months ago, but people overlooked it. So if you have somebody who's cocaine addict or heroin addict, you take 90% or 80% zinc oxide plasma water. You take 20% of CO2 and a drop of the gas of cocaine, and then you connect it to the emotion and people just walk away from it. The addiction is resolved within days. But because you satisfy the emotion, you have connected to cocaine, then it releases itself that it's got to satisfy the point where the cocaine was satisfying. and then that's it. It's the easiest way to get rid of addiction.
Can a bubbler with zinc oxide GANs do the same thing?
A what?
Satisfy the emotion?
Yes, but this way you connect it exactly to where the cocaine or heroin was linking to.
No, not with cocaine. Just zinc oxide
No. I'm talking about different thing. I'm talking about people who have addiction. You can use the zinc oxide and CO2 for the elevation of the emotion and so on. But for addiction, you have to give it exactly what you're satisfying, because when you get addicted, it means you're satisfying a certain need. You have to pinpoint it, and just even one drop of the gas of cocaine or heroin by the manner of science into 80% zinc oxide and 20% CO2 will stop the people immediately. Within days, they don't. When even they see cocaine, they see cigarette, they stop smoking or whatever. But I give a piece of advice for those who want to give smoking. You have to realize, those who've been a heavy smoker but for a long time, or 20, 30, 40 years, understand just because you satisfy the need, you have to change the physicality, because giving up smoking at so many years creates new dimensional problems in the physicality. But in so many ways, you can get rid of the addiction in a matter of seconds, and I don't think there'll be any more drug barons, because you can stop the whole addiction in every direction. Even if you're addicted to pharmaceutical tablets or medicine, volume is one of them. You can come off it very, very rapidly. Or we call it Valium. So if you have people in your family, in your friends, without them knowing, by giving them a glass of water, which they think is just the water, you can walk them away from addiction. Any other question?
Hello, Mr. Keshe. I am Ram from France. Very short question because it's late. As I told you, 2 weeks ago, a patch loses its strength, vibration strength, after about 5 hours. So what I tried to do, instead of using pure, do you hear me? Do you hear?
Yes, yes.
Instead of using GANS water, I used the suspension of GANS water. It is the mixture that we obtain when we pour water over GANS. This suspension contains tiny particles of GANS, and then the patch that we obtain, we don't see any GANS on it, but these tiny particles are enough to maintain the patch vibrating permanently according to my measures. The 10 days, the vibration doesn't decrease. So I really appreciate your comment and your advice about this.
You mean you just put the GANS, let's say, in a glass of water or a glass tube, and you pass water over it?
Instead of taking pure GANS water, I took this what I call suspension in GANS.
So you pour water over a GANS water.
Right. I pour water over GANS.
Yes, but you don't let it mix, but it's in a container.
I don't let it mix, but the GANS is mixed slightly mixed with water. And this is enough.
No, I don't understand. You put some GANS in a glass with the water, and then you pour water over the container.
Exactly.
And you cork, but in fact, the GANS never comes directly in touch with the, what do you call it, with the water. because it's contained in a certain container. We already
I
this.
think he's saying that he pours it directly into the GANs and GANs water, and it mixes, and then he uses that mixture.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah, but that's
it.
still a GANs. You need one molecule, one single grain of GANs in the water, and it'll do the same. One CO2 GANs carries the whole information.
Exactly. Okay. Okay.
There's no problem. We know that for a long time. This is important. Let me explain to you something which is, I explained this before, is a test we did in Ghana Atomic 3-4 months ago. We took GANs water and we reduced it by a given ratio to the next amount from the last one to the next one. With that, we have seen the diminishing of the what we call the power in when we use it as a cleaning or the disinfecting. What we did, we took a gas of CO2, mixed it in the water. We took 100 ml gas water from it. We again took 50 ml of the 100. We put in another one. We mixed it with the water, and then we measured the strength in cleaning contaminated water, and we seen the change reduces by dilution of the GANs level. But when we carry some GANSes in the dilution, the strength stays the same.
It is very important to use a container, a glass container, instead of plastic container for water GANs.
Yes, I just bought 3 last week. This is what you get with the Keshe Foundation, the units you buy with alkaline jars. Any other questions? Shall we call it a day?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
Thank you very much.
One more question from Kevin Devani, only because it's a long question and he took the time to write it out and so on. He wants me to ask it.
Oh, he's still there. Hi, Kevin.
Now, Kevin, maybe you can ask your question if you're able to there. Would you like to do that?
Yeah, thanks, Rick. Hi, Mr. Keshe. This is Kevin.
How are you?
Well, I'm not sure how much time we have, Mr. Keshe. Can you hear me? Good, because the connection. Okay. Can we go back to the soul? Because you've been also. It's a little bit mixed question. I'm trying to be as precise and accurate as possible, so you understand my question. You talked recently in the private kids teaching workshop about how to teach children through our soul, and you've been talking about the emotional center, the core of our brain, as I call it, or I call it also the representative of our soul, and it is as small as a pea size thing. It's like a gel, right? And it's how can we literally train and practice, starting with the children and their parents, but also us as adults, to go deeper. I mean, the condition is always for me to be in the essence of the ethos of peace. And you oftentimes said that plasma seeks balance. Now, once we're in that balance and in that ethos of peace, how can we go deeper into the stronger and stronger field strength of our emotional center, from which we can radiate out and manifest, realize the collective wish of all of us, whether it be the Earth Council, Universal Council, and all of us? How can we go deeper and practice it? Because I remember you telling us from a childhood how you did some practices to find, at least, localize your emotional center. Do you understand my question, where I'm going with this?
No, you're going everywhere, but I don't see where.
Well, you talk about the soul, and we're in this. I see that in this so-called evolutionary process. But how can we tap into the stronger fields of our soul, of our emotional center? Which
the thing is, you are still, as this is what I was talking about earlier in the teachings, is that if you trying to go through the physical part, is very difficult, but you still achieve it because the food, the plants, the food we eat does that. Or if you understood the teaching today, especially today, the early part of the teaching, through the operation of the heart and lung, you decide or you dictate what can be received at what level by the soul of the man, or through the emotion that it feeds through the physicality part of the brain. So you can go the old way and try to find it or understand the further understanding of the knowledge of the feeding of the soul, and absorb directly from the environment of the whole body of the man the energy which is needed, and then feed it back through to soul to the dimension of the physicality. Then you've done your job. Then you understand, you do the whole thing. The whole process from now on is to how to feed the soul of the man, now that we know it's within the structure of the brain of the man, that it feeds at the level which is the satisfaction of the existence in the physical dimension. So we feed the soul, that through the soul we feed the physicality. And those who come to understand this don't need to eat anything. And those who go that path understand that the physicality has a connection with the operation of the circulation of the energy, with the dimension of existence, which is the blood of the man, with the operation of the system which circulates it, plus the condition of the conformation of the environment which you exist, which is the air. In bringing the two to balance, you find peace with the soul of the man, and then becomes detachment from the physicality. What I said in past 10 seconds is the key to the existence in the universe, and not many people understand. Is the maturity of the soul. And this is the key to be able to exist in any dimension in the universe, because as you feed the soul according to the environment which you breathe it, in conjunction with what the physicality of the environment has given you, gives you the extension of what the soul needs to absorb that it can release to confirm existence. As I always said, blessed those who understand. Because that's the secret of the creation. In how you manifest yourself in physical dimension. But from now on, instead of using the physicality that I said, thou shalt not steal, which means kill a plant, kill an animal to feed itself. Man taps in the universal energy through his soul, that through the soul, the way it gives the emotion that it decides the future of the man. Now, the same soul releases energy at the level that feeds the physicality of the man. This is how you survive in the space for millions of years. Now you try to feed the soul. Find it, feed it, and nourish it, and you feed the man and the rest. Then you can expand this, what I call the strength of the soul beyond yourself to the others. And then in that way, your emotion becomes theirs. And that's why I said it's the captains of the spaceships of the future have that understanding. And it's a gift if you receive it. Or you understand it first to receive it. As I said, we got to start the schools teaching about the soul, then the physicality will follow. So the more you're too physical, because then A, B, and C, left hand or right hand. Thank you very much. I hope I answered you. But it's nice to hear from you, Kevin, after a long time.
Yeah, thank you so much for your wisdom, Mr. Keshe. I let it sink in, but I'll come back to this question.
You could have been with us in Austria today, but we'll see you next time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed. Please do not forget that the foundation needs a huge amount of support as we're growing. The donation of time, knowledge, expertise is what we are looking for. And in so many ways, you receive so much knowledge freely, it's time to put back into the foundation freely that others can elevate to your level. Thank you very much for today. Is there any announcement you want to make?
Not sure if anybody has any special announcements. I can't think of anything.
Before I forget, there is one announcement. The Earth Council has released their first, what I call not the request, their understanding of what it needs to be done with with mankind and planet Earth. Maybe next week we give them the teaching time. If they decide as the Earth Council to be present, that they can explain why and release their first, what I call communication. Thank you very much. See you next week. And if anything important, we usually jump in and we'll let you know.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that'll be the end of the 174th Knowledge Seekers Workshop of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute for Thursday, June 1st, 2017. And as always, thank you everybody for attending. Okay, we'll end the live stream now. And we'll give a minute or two for the Zoom meeting to end.